Another man done gone. Another man done gone from the county from another.
It's Jax. What up, Dallas? Let's go.
Martin Luther had a dream, but Freddy Krueger had a Ruger. Ex-Malcolm out the picture, so now we back to the future. Now we back to these losers embracing death like they used to. Poking out they just, but listen, son, now you leaking that future. So who's the shooter? Is it your man? Or was it a fan? Or was it a stand? I would beg to differ. In hindsight, I bet you he say he was not a nigga. Plus Biggie Smalls was just minding his business, yo. Smoking an Optimo. Somebody got to drop the homie Biggie has got to go. And they couldn't stop it, no, I wish that they could. Yeah, the world needs change, but man, I wish that we would. So why the long frown? A man harmed from a 4 pound. His blood ripples on the floor from the war sound. His mama sitting at the wake, hoping the Lord's found. Another dead, another gone now. Damn.
Another man done gone. Another man done gone from the county from another.
George Eliot said that it's best to be what you wanna be. Fucking do what you wanna do, so I do what I wanna do. Bet you did it to floss, bitch, I did what I wanted. Bet you did it and lost, bitch, I did it and won it. Shit, I'm never coming back. Listen, I just wanna rap. Gee, I told you all of that on about a dozen tracks. I don't give a fuck. I just wanna rap. Spitting fire on this track like a fucking Thundercat. Plus this mic is bleeding rojo. This shit is a no-no. Rolling in that low-low. Plus I'm from that Baltimore. Need a folk smoking on my logo. Ready for the wall and we so silly with the flow. Somebody got a robo. Heard the lanes and I swear they so too much love for the fame just to go broke. You said like I had the rap game in the chokehold. Never think I got the whole world in a rope. Gotta think of damn dog, you crazy. Is he the next Jay-Z? My crystal ball is hazy, but I don't know, maybe.
Welcome back to the Insanity Check podcast. It's your host, Kriss here, and we got a great show for you today. I am tired as shit. I think every time I do an Insanity Check, I say I'm tired. And I don't mean to just be saying that shit, but it's really, I'm tired of shit because I go through all the week and then have to come in, and you think the weekend is my time to chill, but it's really not. Like, the weekend is a time to do extra stuff I haven't been doing, so it's like the Insanity Check. I got at least 2 Super Tuesdays, and every now and then there's a character corner as well. And then, God forbid, we haven't announced this, but you probably noticed we've taken a break from comic book clubs and nostalgia reviews. We'll be back with that stuff. Yeah, I've kind of taken a break just because with New York Comic Con, kind of still wrapping up from the fallout from San Diego Comic Con, New York Comic Con, and then the holidays coming up. Like, sometimes I'll still try to get a comic book club and nostalgia review in there or 2 there, but we'll probably just really get those back going back in January because it's really hard to kind of get everybody together during the holidays. So there'll be plenty of premium episodes coming out and stuff like that, but just stay tuned. All right, but anyway, your weekly show, the Insanity Check. We're here. I have a special guest joining me today. My man. So, Dalbin, how long have you been listening to the MTR Network and the Insanity Check?
So actually, I mean, first things first, man. The intro always gets me, and like I have to catch myself from like not nodding my head too hard, like if I'm in a coffee shop or if I'm like at a function where I'm not really supposed to be listening to the show. But honestly, I've been listening to you guys now for a really long time. I started listening to you guys when you guys started doing the nostalgia reviews, right? Mm-hmm. Because for me, as a young kid and I'm originally from New York, I live in Montgomery County now, but like I grew up on, you know what I'm saying, like the Uncanny X-Men run, the Astonishing X-Men run, Joss Whedon's run, you know, with X-Men. And I feel like you're one of the very few people that actually gets Magneto, right? And for me, as a kid growing up in New York, and again, New York is super diverse, right? And even coming down to Maryland's got a lot of diversity too, but like part of me is like, yo, Magneto might have had a point, right? Like Magneto might have been valid. And the comics did a really good job of capturing what Magneto stood for. So when you guys started doing the nostalgia reviews, it took me back to when I was 10, 11 years old collecting comic books. And so I've been rocking with you guys since then, and I'm super appreciative to be on with you today.
Yeah, man. No, first of all, there's no shame in nodding your head to the intro with Jax. Again, shout out to Jax, who's living his best life over there in Japan right now. But there's no shame in that just because, like, again, so for any podcast or YouTube or anything like that that comes on, they always tell you, hey, make your intro short and get into it. Like, we have a 2-minute intro. We play a 2-minute entire song during the intro. And I don't do that for any other of the podcasts we have, but I have to do it for this one just because that's the way we started. Jackson was our first guest. We've always done it that way, and people love that fucking song. So it's like there's no way for me not to. Like, I've thought about it. Like, I had people come, hey, you know what? Do you think maybe you should, like, you know, cut the intro out a little bit, make it a little shorter?
No.
Well, first of all, I think there would be a riot if I did. Like, I think if I cut the song and I cut it short, like I remember there was one time when something happened and the song cut out in the middle, and people were like, "Yo, what happened to the song?" Like, why I'm bobbing my head to the song, and like it cut out in the middle. I'm like, "Yeah, I fucked that up. That's my fault. I won't do that again." Yeah. So, yeah, I can't do that. So, and yo, man, like it always means a lot to me when I hear people say that they've been listening to us for a long time, man. It's because sometimes. I mean, I don't get out much, and so I'm not really one of those people that always goes out and meets people. I think it would be different if I lived in the city or something like that. People would run into me and see me all the time, but I don't live in a city. I live in Maryland, but I'm not in a city. I'm in Beltsville, Maryland. I have a single family home. I'm off by myself. Like, just like I don't do that. That's not my thing. So, I don't normally get like outside of like social media interactions, and usually it's the same people over and over again. I see our numbers sometimes, and I'm like, where are these people coming from? Like, who's 1,000 people download this episode? Like, who are these thousands of people? I don't know who these people are. So it always means a lot to me when I see and I talk to people who are like, yo, I've been rocking with you for a while. And I'm like, man, it means a lot. It's good to, you know, put the faces with the download number or the voice or something like that. Just you know there's a tangible person there. It's not like just some bot keep hitting download on your stuff.
Bot,
right. So but no, and again, I want to thank you. I was talking to you about this before you got on. That listen, I'm always appreciative when people reach out to me and want to be a guest on the show, because the Insanity Check at the show where I'm the host and I constantly bring different people on. Like that, and I don't have anybody like doing like I don't have a secretary. I don't have a person or somebody out there booking guests for me. I do it all myself. So when I have people hit me up and say, hey, they want to be on, and you hit me up because I think this is going to be a great show because you hit me up and you're running for Montgomery County District 1. For the council.
Sir.
And so we're going to get into some of that a little bit here. I want to kind of go through, because you sent me, I was going to cut some of it out, but like all of it's like really good. So I have your little bio that you sent me. So I just want to go, it says, Dalbin received his bachelor's in business administration degree and transitioned to leadership position for the Bell Foundation after serving as a teacher assistant and an enrichment teacher for 4 years. During his time working in education, Dalbin grew to appreciate the academic struggles that children in low-income communities face, but came to realize he did not understand the family dynamics that contributed to these difficulties. Dalbin became a social worker at Grand Windham, where he primarily provided case management and family stabilization services to families that were facing challenges ranging from educational neglect to domestic violence. He also co-founded the Harlem Bangles, a youth leadership academy designed to provide an avenue for the youth to get involved in community service projects while developing their leadership skills. He was awarded the Grand Windham Mission Award, given to social workers who exemplify a commitment to the organization's mission. He moved to Maryland in 2015 after graduating with honors from Hunter's College of Social Work. Dalbin was hired as a foster care social worker with the Latin American Youth Center and organized service to justice and LGBTQ ally training for the organization. He recently began working for the District of Columbia's Children and Family Services Agency, where he provides case management to the district's most vulnerable children while participating in commercial sex trafficking and unaccompanied refugee minor focus groups to improve the district's work with the population. Dalbin strives to keep families working together while linking them to community-based services. He has partnered with the D.C. local ambassadors and has written numerous pieces advocating for more civic engagement and community organizing on a local and state level as opposed to just rudimentary involvement in federal politics. Yeah, like I said, I wanted to kind of go through all that stuff because I think it's important. Like I wanted to, we're going to get into why you're running and things like that, but I think it was actually also important to kind of go into your background. And like I said, when I saw and read your bio. When you first hit me up, I read your site and I was like, yeah, definitely we'll have you on, we'll talk. But then when I read your bio, I was like, okay, this is, yeah, like, you're the real deal. Like, this is something good to have on.
Thank you.
And I went, well, because it matters. Like, I don't talk about it a lot, but my mom's a teacher, you know? My mom's a teacher, so I saw a lot of the things going on when it comes into the educational system. So it's always been kind of a thing for me about hearing that. Like, when I've been saying, if anybody who's listened to the old school Insanity Check episodes, I mean, back when we had Rice on, like, one of the things that always used to get me was I used to bring up, you know, the textbook situation and about how, Texas was the state that was really fucking over our textbooks by putting a lot of, and their board of their Texas Board of Education, the different counties down there, and the people that were getting elected around there were these creationists. They were these people that did things like, you know, didn't really believe that slavery was slavery. And years later, you're seeing, and we're seeing these textbooks come out. We're seeing these things that make the, oh yeah, the Native Americans agreed to leave because the colonials needed the Americans needed, and I'm like, wait, that's not what happened. You guys slaughtered them, and it's literally called
raped their women.
It's called the Trail of Tears for a reason. And then you see, and you're trying to trace back, like, how did we get here? And like, oh, all those years ago, when it was an important thing, when it was a battle between California and Texas, and who was going to win the battles of the textbooks, that's what happened. And so now you're having kids, adults, and all these people learning false history because these things. So it's like, yeah, it's always been my thing. And then I'm adopted. So again, when I hear about being the foster care, like, I knew a lot of foster kids growing up in my school. I knew some foster parents and things like that. Like, all that stuff kind of like sinks into with me. Like, yeah, it's important. Like, this is the real work. And it's the tough work. It's tough. Like,
it's hard, man.
It's one of the things I know I can never do. So, like, what got you into, before we even get into, like, you running for the council, like, what really got you into it? Because, I mean, I read it here, but just in your own words, like, what got you into this line of work?
Yeah, sure, man. So, I mean, you know, first off, thank you for the introduction. I think, you know, I should probably hire you to do all my introductions going forward, because I don't think anybody's going to be able to top that. No, man. So. For me, I'm the son of an immigrant. You know what I'm saying? My mom came to the United States in the '80s. I was born in Washington Heights, and my mom, me and my brother are separated by a year and 5 minutes. So I'm born May 8th, '85. He's born May 9th, '86, and my mom was a victim of domestic violence, and my dad was, you know, a manipulator and, you know, all sorts of crazy stuff. And so my mom sent me and my brother to the Dominican Republic to be with my great grandmother and to, you know, go to school so she could work here in the States. And the only job that she could get with her green card was a job working in a battery factory in Brooklyn for 27 cents an hour. Wow. So now you're talking about a woman that would have to go from Jersey City, because that's where my grandparents lived at the time, and take a 2-hour bus, because it didn't go straight into New York. It went through all sorts of different places, and then like a 45-minute train ride to get to Brooklyn to make essentially $80 a week, because that's what immigrants were getting paid then, and that's what immigrants are still getting paid now, right? Mm-hmm. And so my mom, you know, when I was 5 and my brother was 4, my mom brought us back to the States, and she raised me, my younger brother, and my younger sister all by herself, essentially. You know, like, my mom was a hard worker. She went to work for HRA, and this was around the time that, you know, President Clinton passed his welfare reform, and I'm using air quotes, you can't see me, but welfare reform, where in turn it was to essentially, what it ended up doing, right, was curbing how much financial assistance Black and brown families could get from the government, right? And then in turn you had to work for the money that they were giving you. And I graduated high school and had all this opportunity to go to different colleges, but my mom was receiving food stamps for me, my brother, and my sister. And I remember having to go down to the HRA office to do my fingerprints, and having, like, people look at me like, oh, well, why are you here? Why are you here? Why are you here? And then when I turned 19, they told my mom, they said, listen, he needs to drop out of school. Otherwise, you're going to lose your food stamps. They didn't want me in a traditional 4-year school, because that wasn't, you know, I wasn't earning the money that they were giving my mom, essentially. And my mom said, well, take him off my case then. I'd rather take a hit in my food stamps and then whatever assistance you guys are giving me than have my son give up his dream of graduating college. And my mom...
Before you go, like, that's just a crazy. I hate to cut you off, but that's just like, but that's a thing that a lot of parents are forced to make,
100%.
right? It's a decision that no kid and no parent should have to make, but so many parents have to make that. Like, it's, do you want to stay on food stamps so you can actually eat and survive, or let your kid go to school? You know, and it's just why would any and again, you can't really fault a parent who says, I want the food stamps, because like it's great that your mom was able to make that sacrifice to you, but it's a sacrifice. It's a sacrifice, and I don't think a lot of people realize what a. Okay, let me qualify that. A lot of people, the people that don't have to go to that or don't know anybody that goes to that, don't realize what a sacrifice that is, right? Because
they don't, right?
Yeah, because there's a lot of people that understand that sacrifice, but they don't have a voice to be here to hear that. So sorry, but anyway, continue.
No, and that's actually valid. And I think for me, I think the biggest thing, even now, I look back at that, and I you mentioned it, right? Like, how many parents have to make that sacrifice, but also how many kids go to their parents and say, Mom, don't worry about it. I'm going to drop out of school and I'm just going to go work for these food stamps that you're getting, right? So then you wonder why people are 40, 50 years old and absolutely bitter because they had to give up on their dreams of going to school, becoming a nurse, becoming a doctor. But it's because the government in this country forced a kid who probably shouldn't have made that decision. But what if you have a sick parent, right? What if you're the only one that can work, for your family? And that again, those are things that I always felt like the people that made the decisions to, again, criminalize the war on drugs, quote unquote, and it frustrates me because now I hear, we should be understanding of people on opioids, and yes, I agree, but why weren't we this understanding on people who are on crack cocaine and try to rehabilitate those folks as opposed to criminalizing them? But that's something else that we can
last night on MSNBC, I think it was MSNBC. I was washing dishes in my house because my dishwasher is broke, and I just don't feel like buying. I don't feel like buying a new one right now because I want to get the kitchen done, and so I'm just like, fuck it, I'll wash my hand. This is me with myself, right? So I'm washing dishes in the kitchen, right? And I'm watching either CNN, I can't remember if it's CNN or MSNBC, and they literally have this segment where they they have a panel of all these doctors, like 8 different doctors, and they're discussing, how the opioid crisis happened. It's like, well, we were over prescribing these opioids to the people that didn't need them, and we need to change. Oh my! And I'm hearing this, and I'm going, oh well, this makes a lot of sense. I'm thinking about how, wow, it's great that they're doing this. Then all of a sudden it hit me. I was like, wait a minute. When the fuck was this for black people? Like when crack and cocaine and all these other drugs were ravaging through our communities, and again, this wasn't like we just decided to become crackheads and then we just put it in our own.
Correct.
No, it was shipped into our neighborhoods, like, by the government, and there was none of this understanding. There were no panels of doctors going, oh well, we need to find ways of humanizing and doing. And I'm just like, are you? Again, it's one of those things that. And it's one of those things that puts you in a bad spot because, on the one hand, you don't want to sound, you don't want to have no empathy for the people that are, let's be honest, white people that are going through the opioid crisis. You don't want to feel no empathy for them. You don't want to be that person. You want to say, yes, this is what we need to do. But as a person of color, it really does stick with you sometimes when you see this shit and you go, y'all motherfuckers only care when it happens to you. Like, where was this? Like, you guys literally fought a war on drugs. And again, they're fighting a war on opioids, but it's like, it's being targeted at the people, it's being targeted at the companies and the doctors who are, like, it's being targeted, it's not being targeted at the actual drug users and the people that were forced in the situation. Whereas the war on drugs back with, Reagan and Clinton and all that, and Bush and all, it was aimed at us. It was aimed at black people. It was like, oh, look at these niggers. They can't get themselves together. As they just, look at them. They're just so sad. I'm like, so where is that kind of language?
Where's the compassion? Where was the compassion, right? Yeah, and I mean, even going as far back as Nixon in '71, because that's really when the war, quote unquote, the war on drugs started, right? And so, like, even thinking about those things, like, I remember my mom. So, and full disclosure again, my mom, love her to death. She is a rock star, but my mom was a very angry person growing up, right? Because she just, she was physically abused as a kid, and she carried that into raising me and my brother and my sister. And so that was a lot. And again, like going to work 8 o'clock in the morning to 5:30 and not getting a paycheck at the end of it because she was working for food stamps and rental assistance, like that's hard. It takes its toll on people, right? So I remember my mom sitting down, and I think I was like 15, 16 at the time. And my mom had started drinking pretty heavily, right? Mm-hmm. And my mom starts drinking heavily, and one night we have to call 911 because she's throwing up, and she's throwing up and then kind of fluctuating between vomiting and being non-responsive. So we have to call 911. The police and the ambulance come out. They take her to Jacoby Hospital, pump her stomach. My mom's there for like 24 hours. And I remember distinctly, a nurse came to her and told her, if you keep this up, we will take your kids away, right? So my mom has not had a drink. I'm 32 now. She has not had a drink in 17 years. I got married and my mom did not drink at my wedding, right? And I remember her sharing the story with me. And again, when we talk about the criminalization of Black and brown people, that's what we're talking about. Like, instead of offering to help this woman, your belief is that, okay, we need to tell her, oh, no, we're going to take your kids away. But when I see somebody addicted, and again, I'm a foster care social worker now, and I'll wrap it back into, like, how I got there. Like, my goal isn't to take your kid away. That's not my goal. Now, do I have to do that if I think it's in the best interest of the kid? Yes. Do I have to keep your kid away from you and find him a permanent home? Yes. And again, not saying that, that the parents, but I'm going to do everything in my power to help you. So that way, at the very least, you never have to see me after either A, you get your kid back, or B, you get yourself together and realize that maybe you don't want to be a parent. Or maybe it's too much for you, or maybe the abuse that you endured is a lot and you can't be a good mom in that moment. And for me, the way I got into it is, again, like I remember, and I had a white program director from Graham Wyndham when I got hired, who told me to my face that the only reason she hired me was because she needed a Black man that spoke Spanish in Harlem to relate to some of these kids, right? And here I am, fresh out of undergrad, and I need help paying my student loans, right? So I'm like, all right, yeah, sure, that's a little racist, but I need a paycheck, you know what I'm saying? So I'm like, all right, fine, I'll do the work. And then what happened was I actually ended up liking the work, because it reminded me a lot of the good people and me and my mom and my siblings' lives that actually helped us get to where we are now. I'm the only one that's graduated from college, but my brother is an assistant dean in New York. My sister is a budding musician, but she travels the world and takes care of dogs. And she's very hippie-like in that sense. Like, she's just very much eat, pray, love. Like, she just wants to be happy. You know what I'm saying? And she's a lesbian, and it's dope. And I'm fortunate that we're so diverse. But my brother wouldn't have the job he did if somebody didn't help him out. My sister wouldn't be able to do what she does if people didn't help her out. And I always wanted to help people. And that's how I decided to be a social worker. And that's also how I decided to run. Like, Montgomery County in and of itself is not very representative of the 46% of other, like, outside of white people. Like, 46% of Montgomery County is made up of Black, Hispanic, Asian, and mixed race. So and the council has one Black person on it, and they just elected that person 4 years ago. So I have a distinct problem with when you're not going to tell me to wait my turn and then not get out of my way when I try to take it. So that's one. And two, you're not going to tell me that the 46% that are here, that are under the poverty line, I think it's 33% that are under the poverty line, that having someone that looks like you, having somebody that understands what you went through, isn't going to make things easier for you. So in turn, that's why I'm running. So
you brought up the Montgomery County. So for those who aren't in Maryland and don't know Montgomery County is always, and I think it is ranked number 1 in, like, per income per capita, right? I believe so. It still is. It's either that or Howard. I can't remember which one it is. I think it's Montgomery.
It's Howard, right?
It's like I said, they're both up there. Like, they probably fluctuate each year between the two of them. And if you live in Maryland, those are considered the rich counties. Those are considered the counties that have the most money. That they look the nicest and everything like that, right? So when you mention that and you think about that, people go, oh, okay, and you have this idea of it. And so those are also the places where you see the white people, right? If you're in, like, unless you go out to, like, southern Maryland or northern Maryland, like, you're all the way out, like, in Frederick or somewhere, like, this is where you're viewing, like, okay, this is where you go if you want to make it. You go to Howard County or you go to Montgomery County, things like that. So the per capita income, I think, I'm looking at it right now, has listed here from Wikipedia. It's only 48,000. So it's 48,916 for Montgomery County. Howard County is 48,243. So one of the things that's on your website is about one of the things you're fighting for is to raise the minimum wage, because right now,
yes, sir.
and I looked it up. So Maryland's minimum wage right now is $8.75. Montgomery County's probably is one of the highest in Maryland. It's $10.75. So, you know, this is one of the things that the minimum wage debate has always been something that just has driven me crazy, because, you know, you hear people go, they'll fight for 15, right? You know, we're fighting for 15, minimum, which is still too low, right? But people go, oh, no, you shouldn't go 15. That's just too high. That's just too much, right? If you do out $8.75 an hour and give it 40 hours, because here's the other thing too, like a lot of people don't understand this. If you're going to make minimum wage, a lot of these places, they won't give you 40 hours.
Right.
They're not giving you 40 hours. You might get 32, but once you get 40 hours, then they got to start talking about benefits, so they're not going to give you 30. They're not going to give you 40, so they give you 32, right? So but let's just go with the 40. Let's give you the extra 8 hours and give you the 40 hours, right? $8.75 a year is $18,200.
Below the poverty line. Yep.
1075, which is the 1075 is again. I haven't looked this up there, but I'm gonna assume that Montgomery County, maybe Howard County, might be a little bit higher, because those are the rich counties in Maryland. But so we're talking about the high end of minimum wage in Maryland, 1075. That's $22,360 a year.
Yep.
All right. I'm sorry, that's barely scraping by. That's still half of what the median income is in both of those counties. Like it's less than half of that. You're pushing for 18, right?
I am.
Yeah, you're pushing for 18. 18, and that's $37,440, which again still is still not a lot, but compared to what the other ones are, it's almost double what the Maryland minimum wage is across the state. It is, you know, $15,000 more a year than what the Montgomery County minimum wage is right now. Like, I think this is, and again, maybe this is the problem when it comes to having these conversations. Because here's the one: I couldn't be like you. I couldn't be a teacher or a social worker just because. Not because of the kids thing. I know I always have my thing about kids, but I'm actually really good with kids. When you put me around kids, I'm pretty good.
Right.
My problem is the adults and the minute, and it's not even. I'm not even saying always the parents, but just like the minute that somebody tells me I can't do something to help somebody that doesn't make common sense to me, I'm gonna be pissed, and I'm gonna be frustrated. And I know myself I couldn't do it. Right, and I just couldn't. And then I also couldn't be a politician. Yeah, and I also couldn't be a politician because I just believe the average person is too dumb, and I can't do. And so when it comes to minimum wage, I feel like that's where this comes down to. People are being dumb. When you say, "Hey, let's make the minimum wage 15," still too low, but let's make it 15. People go, "Oh no, $15 for flipping burgers? That's too much." I'm like, well, you do realize that minimum wage covers more than just, you know.
Just a job at McDonald's.
Just a job at McDonald's. I mean, and not to say that a person going to McDonald's and what they do there. Like, I'm telling you right now, a person who works 32 hours at McDonald's does more work than I do working 2 weeks at my job. They have to stand on their feet. They're going back and forth between whatever. They're constantly interacting with people. Customer service. Like, they do way more than I do. Sitting in my office, talking to my coworker, well, the other people around the corner from me, play games. Like, that is what my day at work is, and I get paid way more than this. Yeah, I do some serious, and I have technical skills that I put to use. I do things like I got a presentation coming up next week, but the physical work that these people do is way more intensive than what I have to do. And so I think that when it comes to this talk about the minimum wage, that instead of talking about that per hour, I know we need to need to break down what it is a year, because when you break it down a year, it's ridiculous. $18,000 a year.
No, it is, man. And I think one of the things that I've talked about, and again, this is going out of meeting voters and those kind of things is that realistically, like the fight for 15 sounds great. I know politicians like alliteration and like things that sound great on bumper stickers, but realistically, you're not. I made $15 an hour at 2 part-time jobs when I was 25 because I needed to work 2 part-time jobs to even be able to pay anything realistically, right? And so that's one. Two, the benefits for raising minimum wage, on top of the fact that you're raising obviously economic opportunity for everybody, is you're also raising morale, right? Because it is demoralizing if you are a parent or not even a parent, if you are a student, right? It is demoralizing to work 40 hours a week because you need to work in order to pay for school, right? Or if you do work study or whatever the case may be, it is demoralizing to work and not see the fruits of your labor. So that's why kids you see, they're like, you know what? Forget it. I'm not going to go do work study. I'm not even going to go to school. I'm just going to get a job or a trade that pays me $20, $25 an hour. And also, like you said, the minimum wage encompasses receptionists, it encompasses temp workers, it encompasses front desk people, the front desk assistants that work at the hotel and at hotels. And Montgomery County is littered with all these hotels, right? That are across the street from a J. Crew store, or that are down the block from a Tiffany's, or whatever the case may be. And I think for me, the biggest thing is that there is, like, yeah, you touched on the median income, but there 33% of the people in Montgomery County are living below the federal poverty line. So, for example, when you see somebody like Sarah Huckabee Sanders say, oh, well, everybody gets an average of a $4,000 tax cut, how could you be against that? And it's like, well, guess what? If one person gets a $20,000 tax cut and persons 2 through 25 get nothing, that's how you get the average of 4,000.
Yeah.
The averages, like you mentioned, don't really matter to me. It's the context. It's how are we making it easier for that single mom that has to work 3 jobs in order to pay for the SAT classes that her son's going to need in order to be able to pass his SATs, to then go to a really good school and pay back the investment that she's made on him, right? Or what do we do about the kids that say, you know what, I don't want to go to college. That's not what I want to do. What I would like to do is I want to go into sales, or I want to become an elevator repairman, or I want to do this or that. How are we preparing them for the next generation? Because the biggest thing, because the next generation of work and labor, because right now the biggest thing is automation, right? That's the biggest buzzword that you hear now, because everybody's talking about, you know what, the workforce is not going to look the same in 5 years, especially as you have the people the people that are cashing in on their Social Security checks early, people that are retiring now, people that are leaving the workforce, right? You see JP Morgan is making this big push to get older folks out of corporate America and reinvigorate their labor departments with younger folks. What skills have you given these kids in order to be prepared to handle those kind of jobs? So then when those kids turn to drinking or whatever the case may be and decide, you know what, I don't even want to do that because I'm depressed because nobody ever prepared me to deal with the rigors of corporate America, then we have the kids that are then you end up homeless, right? Because Maryland's got a big homeless problem. 5,000 people are homeless in Maryland. And so I think those are the biggest things. I think everybody thinks that, oh no, we're just giving them a handout. And when I was 20, I didn't earn 15 an hour. I didn't earn 18 an hour. And that's fine. But realistically, the world is different now. The world is very different now. And we owe it to this generation, the kids that are now about to graduate high school and go to college, to prepare them better so that way they don't have the same struggles that we have. Yeah, my mom used to tell me, oh no, struggle builds character. And that's great and all. But realistically, I'm more financially fortunate than my parents ever were. But that involved, again, like you said, my mom cutting her food stamps in half, right? That involved me moving out of New York and coming down to the district because they pay social workers more here. All of those things, but those were sacrifices that I made, and elected officials do need to make this easier for this next generation. I'm not saying give them a handout. I'm not saying, but the field does have to be level. And right now, it's not. Economically, it is not level right now.
It was one of the crazy things to me is the whole don't give them a handout thing, because it's a lie. It's a lie because here's the thing. Everybody who's successful, if they really break it down, can point to somebody who, if you want to use the crude term handout, they got a handout from. I mean, look at Trump. You got $1 million handout from your daddy. And on top of that, if you didn't get the $1 million handout, you had your dad's name and things like that. Like, so many people try to discredit, and I don't know why. It's one of these things that we big up this myth of the self-made millionaire, the self-made whatever, which does not exist. Oh, if you just do hard work. No, it's not that somebody took a chance on you, somebody looked at it. You might have taken the opportunity and ran with it, which is definitely true, but you got some of that. Like, I look at myself. Absolutely. Like, I am financially set. I have debts and things like that, but I never worry about not being able to pay my debts. If I lose a job, barring doing something horrible to lose that job, I'm always believe that I can get another job because I've made connections.
Correct.
I have a resume. I've done all this, and I'm like, but yeah, that's part of me. But I got that because when I was in school, my mom was a teacher. So my mom being a teacher also meant that I was able to get into gifted and talented programs when they still existed. It wasn't that they were just like, oh, you're not gifted and talented, put it in there. No, it's like. The teachers knew my mom, they knew me, and they knew that I was gifted and talented, so they put me in the gifted and talented programs, which, by the way, I hated the fact that they got rid of those programs. Like, I remember one of my last years, I want to say in elementary school, or was it middle school, I think it was elementary school, they got rid of the gifted and talented program, which was was a program that actually, and it was one of those times, they were pulling out not just young white kids or even black kids who had parents, no, they were pulling out all the kids, anybody who showed any kind of aptitude, they were pulled out, and we did cool, fun things, and we were doing things beyond just regular book schoolwork. They got rid of that program in Maryland, and yeah, it sucked. But like throughout the time when I was in school, I always had somebody looking out for me. So when I went to middle school, I was never a good test taker, like a standardized test taker. So you take I can't remember what test it was at the time. We took a test to go from elementary school to middle school to figure out your aptitude to put you into the classes. So I went from being in honors classes in elementary school to they just put me in regular classes in middle school. And they couldn't figure out why that I was doing fine. My grades were fine, but I was always acting down. They couldn't figure out why, and then finally they were like, "Oh, you're just not challenged." So I always had somebody. So that happened to me in middle school. Happened to me again in high school. I got put into regular classes, then get put in honors classes, and eventually I had I can't remember the initial teacher I had. I know the teacher they moved me in the class, but her name was Miss Millman. But before then. It was one day. I'm always in the back of the classroom. Me and the other kid were just doing what we always do, making not really making noise, but we were kind of like instigating shit, right? Because we were bored. We knew the shit that was going on, and
because you were bored out of your mind,
right? So the teacher she was fed up with it. It was like the first week of class, either first or second week of class, and she was like, "All right, that's it." Kriss and I can't remember the other kid's name. You two come with me. And we're like, oh man, we're got in trouble. We're going to the principal's office. She walks over to the honors class. Like, this is your new class now. You're staying in here. This is your class now. And from that moment on, I was always in honors classes. I was a grade A student. I got things like that when my senior year, they had this my principal at the time was trying to start this program for talented African American students. He was a white guy. He was trying to start this program for talented African American students, which got plenty of pushback. Like, you think the fights we fight now are no different than the fights we fight any other time? Because, like I said, 20 years ago, it was in this, I think we were calling it like the African American Achievement Program, something like that, and they were just like, well, why can't it be all American Achievement Program? Like, it was, the shit that you hear now is the same shit that was happening back then, right? Just white people were getting all upset and were like, because there's only a handful of us, and that's why, right? They just didn't understand that shit. But, I had a counselor who looked at me and was like, well, you're applying for college? I'm like, yeah, I applied to a college here. I was going to do an ROTC scholarship to Virginia Tech. She was like, well, here's a program in the University of Maryland, Baltimore County, called the Meyerhoff program. Apply to it. Like, I always had somebody looking out for me. If those people weren't there, where I am today would be vastly different. And so 100%. If I was to tell my story and cut those parts out where people looked out for me, help me, and help me get where I'm at. Again, because my dad had a good job, my first job ever. Like, I once to try to apply for to be like the busboy at like a restaurant, and they told me I was overqualified. They wouldn't give me the job. So my first job ever was working at Northrop Grumman as an intern over the summer. And I only got that because my dad. And what I found out was, a bunch of, because they didn't have a formal, it actually wasn't even Northrop Grumman. It was a smaller company. They called it something else. Northrop Grumman eventually bought them out. But the company I worked for, my dad had been there forever. He had been kind of, not only an executive at that time, but he knew the CEO and stuff like that. So they had this thing where a lot of other employees and their kids, because it was a smaller company, would just get the IT department to hire their kids as interns over the summer. So the same thing happened to me. So they were like, oh, I can get you a job as an IT, because he knew I liked computers, and I was always into computers. Turns out the other kids that were doing the program, None of them really were into computers. They just got the program because their parents got them the job.
Yep.
So when I went to go do the job, right, I dress up, I put a suit, I put a tie on, I'm there. I'm going to do it like I'm going to do a regular interview. Like my dad told me, like, yeah, go in here and do a regular interview. And they were just like, oh, we just thought you were, like, they looked at me like, well, you had a tie on or something like that? Oh, no, we just thought you had the job.
Yeah.
You're his son, so yeah, you had the job. And I took that and I excelled at it and I used those skills to get other things. But if my dad didn't work there, I would never have gotten that opportunity. And who knows, I wouldn't have been able to put in by the time I got into, like, I did that before I took one class at UMBC. So I already had work experience, you know? I was able to do all this stuff before I got out of school. So once I got out of school, at school, yeah, I had decent grades. I had like I graduated like a 3.4, which is good, not bad, good. But I had 4 years of experience working as an intern at this defense company. You know, I had all, and then I used that to get another job at IB. Like, I had all this stuff. And if I didn't have my dad in this place, and if he wasn't able to get me that job, which so many other students, so many other parents, other white employees had their kids doing the same thing, like, that's how I got up. And if you don't have those opportunities, you're not going to be like, there are so many people that didn't have the opportunity that I went to school with. They're fine now. When they first got out of school, they were struggling to find work.
Oh, yeah.
I remember, right now, Rice is doing way better than I am right now. She's like, she's in management. She's doing all this stuff. But when she first got out, she was trying to find a job, you know, because I had the experience. She's actually smarter than me, you know. So it's like, and there were so many other people,
hard, man.
Yeah, and there were so many other people like that, where it's like people I know that were way more talented than I would know way more than I did, and were struggling to find their first job. And here I am. I come out of school, like, before I even graduated. Before I even graduated, I had one company that I didn't take the offer for offered me $50,000 when I first came out of school. Then the company I'd done the internship for, my dad's company, they were like, oh, well, we'll give you a counter offer at $60,000. So right out of school, I'm already making more than my mother, who has a master's degree in education and has been a teacher for like 20 years. And it's all because of the opportunities I was able to get through my father, through people I knew, and doing all this other stuff. It's like, there are no free handers. Yeah, it was hard work for me to keep that.
Right.
But to get that foot in the door, like, so many people don't understand. It's honestly, sometimes it's just dumb fucking luck. Sometimes it's the luck of the draw, and it drives me crazy as a person. I have privilege. I don't struggle for money. If at the end of the month and I realize I'm broke, it's like I'm not really broke because I just got to dig into my savings if I have to. Like, I never worry about where my next meal is coming from. Like, I'm not that person, but I understand how that could happen to somebody. Because I look back at my life and I'm like, yo, there are so many things that I was able to do that so many other people couldn't do. You know? I was able to grow up. Like, my parents are together now, but I grew up with two parents. Two-parent home, two-income home, you know? My mom, she wasn't making a lot of money because she was a teacher, but she was still making money. She had a steady income. She had vacation, so she had the summer months off. So she had those 3 months off.
Right.
My dad had a full-time job that gave him plenty of benefits, so he could have vacation off. So we got to do things like, one year we took a month off, and we went cross-country for a trip. Like, that's privilege. Nobody can do that. You know?
And you view the world differently. And that's the biggest thing, too, is that you view the world differently for that. My story, again, like the way I got to the Bell Foundation, I grew up without my dad. And one day, so my dad's known the Clintons for a really long time. So my dad is he worked on Congressman Espaillat's campaign. He's the first Dominican-born congressman. So my dad worked on his campaign. And when he was running for district council in New York, and again, I hadn't seen my dad. I was 20 years old. I hadn't seen him, had no relationship with him, you know what I'm saying? Nothing like that. And my mom calls me one day. She's like, do you want to meet your dad? And I was like, yeah, you know. And for me and my brother are different in that aspect. Like, I've always longed to know my dad. My brother's always been like, nah, it's fine. And so when my dad got wind that I was coming, he left. He left the campaign event because he thought I was going to make a scene, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't, you know what I'm saying? That's not what I was there for. I was just there to, you know, like, hey, Dad, this is me. I'm 20 years old. I'm not, you know, in jail. I'm not a drug addict. You know what I'm saying? Like, maybe we could grab a cup of coffee or something. And so my dad, when he heard that it was me, came back and he gave me his number. He invited me. So he was working at a school at the time, like as his regular job. And he invited me out to the school, and they were on summer break. And that meeting led to me meeting the person that would be my program director at the Bell Foundation, which in turn led to me transitioning to being a social worker. And again, like for me, like my dad gave me the opportunity. Like obviously the dude was going to hire me because he knew my dad. And my dad felt like, I guess he owed me, you know, from not being there or whatever the case. Me and my dad have a great relationship now. He's helping me a lot on my campaign and stuff. But he gave me the opportunity. I ran with it. And I agree with you. And again, my life is very different. Like my life has been very different, but my life is where it is now, where I'm financially okay because of a lot of those steps, right? Like, did I take that interview? Did I not take that interview? Was I able to keep that job? Did I not keep that job? Was I able to move on to something that paid a little bit more? And if you mentioned not being a good test taker, I was always a pretty good test taker, but the things, like I used to be bored in school, similar to you. Like I was just bored out of my mind. So in turn, when I was like 16 years old, I was horsing around with my friends or whatever. And then it was like, oh, you know, he has a behavioral issue. No, I don't. I'm just bored out of my mind. I'm not challenged here. You know, it wasn't until midway through junior year that I transitioned to schools that I felt really challenged, because I was in a school that didn't require Regents examinations to graduate. And I transitioned to a school that did. So now I actually had to do the work. I couldn't get by on just my personality or whatever the case may be. But I think in Montgomery County in particular, the issues, those kind of issues, right? Like you just mentioned, like, there's a lot of kids here that, yes, they have financial privilege and they probably don't ever have to worry financially, right? Like they could probably get a job at their dad's company or whatever the case may be. But I will say this, and again, I've gotten pushback from some of my black friends who are like, oh, that's you defending the structural oppression of our people. And I'm like, no, that's not what I'm doing at all. But it's very, very hard. Like you mentioned, like your situation with your dad, you're coming in as, you know, and I don't know, your dad's going to say you're coming in as Robert's son. That's a hard legacy to live up to. And it's a lot of pressure to put on a 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25-year-old who may have not been prepared, or who, like, again, you said you went in there with your suit and tie, right? And you went in there like it was a regular job interview. But what about Ryan from Bethesda, who went in there and just got the internship because of his dad and didn't take it seriously? Then what if he, you know? And so I think that's the biggest thing, the biggest disservice that we do in this country as a whole, and in particular Montgomery County. None of our kids are prepared for what the real world is. Well, I won't say none. A lot of our kids are not prepared for what the real world is, and how the real world will spit you up and chew you back out, because they're so used to taking advantage of their privilege. You, on the other hand, you didn't take it. And when I say take advantage, I mean you didn't abuse it. You didn't think it would always be there. Like, you took the opportunity and ran with it. And I think elected officials need to prepare our kids better for that. So that way they can come out more like you, and not like, again, I have a ton of friends who after high school, they thought they would have their life together. And I've ran into some of them that are either homeless now or had dropped out of school and just ended up somewhere that we didn't think they would end up. And life does throw you a bunch of curveballs. But I think that's another reason why I'm running, is because I think we owe it to these kids to give them more. And yeah, call it whatever you want to call it. Call it a handout, call it assistance, whatever the case be. At the end of the day, it's us doing the right thing for the next generation.
Well, I think, and especially because I know one of the things you have also is a school overcrowding, which obviously is a huge issue. Like, again, that was the other benefit of having those gifted and talented programs, the honor classes. And again, it sets up. Again, honor classes, I think, are both good and bad in some ways. Like, they're good because, hey, they're able to challenge your most gifted students and give them more challenging work, smaller classroom, things like that. But also, by putting us in a smaller classroom, we get different opportunities that some of the other kids don't get. You know, and sometimes I think about it and I'm like, you know, one of the problems we have in our education system, again, this is one of the things that, again, I'm far removed from it, because I just, again, growing up as the son of a teacher, you see some of the shit they have to go through, and you're just like, yeah, I can never do that. Like, I can't. But like, I always seem to think about the way we have our schools, a lot of these schools set up. They're still set up and they're teaching on, I guess you would say, like a 40s and 50s model, where like I don't think the material is actually set up for teaching us how we live in today's society, where it's like,
absolutely, like
growing up when I was in school, like we were lucky. Again, I was so lucky. My school, Thomas Stone, we actually got a computer teacher. I want to say She was a young chick. I can't remember what her name was, and she came in, I think, my junior year. And I know right after I left, they ended up taking her, moving her out of the school, and putting her as the head of the technology head for the entire school board. Because and I'm like, and that was great for her. But I was like, yo, you just took out one of the great teachers we had that was taught us how to program, got us into school, and used like we had a computer lab, we had all this stuff. So it's like we had access to things that so many other kids didn't. Like I was grateful enough to get my dad. My dad was into computers, so I had a computer at home. You know, I was learning how to program on my own. I was doing all this stuff on my own. But again, I was lucky. Having that computer lab though at school and having somebody there who knew how to program and taught us she taught us how to code in BASIC and things like that and taught us basic programming languages. So by the time I got into school and into college, when I went to college, I was killing the intro classes to program because I already knew this shit. I mean, yeah, it was a different language, but I already been taught the basics of programming. So I knew that it's like, that's a huge thing. If your school is not teaching kids, and it shouldn't just be teaching some kids. If your school isn't teaching all kids how to program, it doesn't teach all kids how to use things like Photoshop. You know, like, it sounds crazy, but, yo, you should be teaching kids how to use Photoshop in school. Yep. Like, you should be teaching them how to use Lightroom and things like that. If your school is not teaching that kind of stuff, what are you doing? Like, exactly. Remember, you tell kids, hey, you gotta learn how to use algebra because someday you're gonna need to know how to solve for X, right? Well, you know what you're gonna need more. You know what I solve for? I don't need to know how to solve for X. I mean, you should, and that's good problem solving skills. But use that in relation to how to use different aspect ratios and things like that in videos, or doing like Photoshop or things like
pictures, right? So that way you can put them in your articles or whatever, so that way they meet SEO requirements. No, absolutely.
It's the simplest thing. It's the simplest thing, and so many people don't know how to do that. And if you teach your kids there, all of a sudden now you have kids with these skills. So, because people are like, we got to go to school and learn a trade. Okay, but what happens if you learn a trade that gets automated at some point?
Right.
What do you do then? What do you do then? Are you teaching kids how to then run the machines that do the automation? Because that's what you should be learning. I don't want to know how to put this thing into this hole over here. I want to learn how to program something to do that for me. So, because you can always do that. You can always, like, that's how I've been able to survive. Like, I can survive as learning. I learn a basic, then learn C, and I just went from there and learned different languages. So now when I'm in school, when I'm in my jobs, they're like, hey, do you know Python? I'm like, no, but I can learn it in a couple weeks.
There you go. Exactly.
And that's what it is. Yeah. That's the skill set you need to teach kids, and we're not doing it. We're on these old methods of, oh, well, you know, you need to do this and do that. And I'm like, no, like Common Core math. Hey, look, that's great. That's fine. But I'm looking at some of the problems they do, and I'm like, yo, instead of doing it this way, why don't you do it in a way that's related to like computers or programming or something like that? Like teach them that way. And then they'll be able to, like, again, it's teaching a man to fish versus giving them fish. You know, I don't know. It's just one of the things that drives me crazy.
No, you're 100% right. And I think one of the things that that I'm also running on is more partnership. So, for example, I live directly in Chevy Chase, right? And Microsoft has a big office literally right on Wisconsin, right? Yeah. And one of the things that I've found is that, like, for me, why isn't there a pipeline from the high school to that office where kids are learning how to develop video games, or kids are learning how to, you know, exactly what you said, make presentations, develop the new apps that Microsoft uses? Why is that not happening? And so one of the things that I am running on is, yes, of course, it's the overcrowding in schools, but the underlying theme of that isn't because I think, you know, teachers are overwhelmed, although, yes, I do believe that. But it's also the reality that if you have 34 kids in one school, in one class, then what's happening is, I guarantee you about 80% of those kids are not getting the attention that they need. And then in turn, they're suffering academically. And then the reality is, you want to talk about overprescription of medication, and that's what's led to the opioids crisis. Talk to a parent from the 90s who their kid was displaying quote unquote behavior issues, but it was really because he was distracted and bored. And talk about how many doctors prescribed them autism medicine or ADHD medication, and now they can't function without the medication, right? So I think it's one of those things where as a county council, they need to do a better job of using the resources that are available in the community to do those exact same things, right? Because think about it. What's worth more in the job market right now? Is it a kid who walks out of there with a high school diploma and, a 1950 on an SATs? Or is it a kid who walks out with a high school diploma, but also did 2 years of interning at Microsoft and did a year of interning at Capital One Bank and did maybe his freshman year interning at a law clinic, because UDC is literally 10 minutes away from Chevy Chase, right? Yep. So it's those kind of partnerships that you need. And I've always been really good at developing those relationships. And I think part of it is because, again, I'm young, right? So I'm the youngest declared candidate, but I'm also the only male candidate of color, which is, again, speaks to the lack of representation amongst the council. But I've always been really well at developing those relationships because, like you mentioned, for me, if I lose my job tomorrow, I can almost guarantee that I will have a job in a week and a half to 2 weeks. Because again, I know who to lean on for those things. I know that, okay, if this happens, I can use this person to connect me at the agency that they're at, or I can go work for the Office of Superintendent for School Education if I really wanted to. Because again, I'm a male and I speak Spanish and I have my license as a social worker, and I know what friends of mine can get me in where I need to be. And that's even a lacking skill that you don't prepare kids to do. Like, none of these kids know what it's like to go to a job fair and leave with 10 business cards. And again, maybe it's not realizing that you're not going to use that now. But what if in 2-3 years from now you're graduating college? And I have so many friends, I can't tell you, Chris, I have so many friends that we graduated from college and I got a job right away. They had to wait 2-3 years to get jobs. Mm-hmm. Even when I graduated grad school and moved down here, I graduated in May. I was down here by October, but I still had my job in New York. A lot of my friends only went to school during that time. They were like, oh, don't worry about it. When I get my master's, I'll get a job. And they still haven't found a job 2 years later. So it's one of those things where if the world continues to evolve, then our elected officials need to evolve with it. We can't sit here and pretend that, okay, if I talk to my sister who went to school maybe 4 years before me and I show her a problem from a school textbook that I'm using, oh yeah, no, I learned that. Really? Why did you learn that? The world's not the same anymore. We were talking before we came on about how 2 school textbooks are peddling this theory that, Columbus was a benevolent person right. to the Native Americans, and he worked with them and he didn't do anything crazy, when in reality that's a lie. Right? That is a bold-faced lie. Or when you hear that schools are removing certain stories from their rotation because it's affecting the way certain kids are behaving or whatever the case may be, like To Kill a Mockingbird gets pulled from the shelf. Why? Those stories are relevant, right? And they're still relevant now. The same arguments that our ancestors were fighting, the same things that our ancestors were fighting for in the 50s and 60s and 70s. It's a lot of the same stuff that these football players are kneeling for now that we're pushing for now. The only difference is that people believe that, oh, well, you're not legal slaves, so it's fine. No, but we're still indebted to the government. We still don't make enough money like we need to. And those are realistic problems, and economic opportunity is the only way that we break through that, which is why we're running on that platform also. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's great. It's funny you mentioned about being young and politicians, being out of touch. It's like, when you think about it, put it this way. Like, a lot of our politicians are so old, they're at the age of, remember when you were young and if you're young to remember the VCRs, and the VCR was always blinking because your parents or your grandparents didn't know how to set the VCR. Right. Well, this is literally what it is. You have people who are making policy and telling us, we know the future, but you ask them, like, well, can you set up your own iPhone? No, I don't know how to set up newfangled technology. It's like, well, then you're disqualified for talking about the future. You have no idea what you're talking about. You have no idea. When people go, like, when people are almost proud of not being up on the latest technology. Like, I say all the time sometimes, like, yeah, I don't know how to use Snapchat. I'm aware of what Snapchat is. I don't know how to use it, but I'm aware of it. You have people, I don't know what that shit is. I'm like, well, then what you've done is you've aged I hate to be ageist, but you've aged yourself out of the conversation because you are stuck in the past. You don't want to understand what the future is, and you have to do that. If you don't do it, it's evolve or die. You have to do that.
Absolutely. Jerry Mikulski, who's the founder of Rex, the Relationship Economy Expedition, said that automation is Voldemort, the terrifying force nobody is willing to name. And it's true. Like, you'll sit there and people are like, oh no, we don't have to prepare for that. It's like, well, why? Like, why wouldn't you want to? And tying it into politics also, like, the Republicans, the one thing that they've done better than the Democrats, and it's one thing, it's not anything but one thing, is that they built a bench where Democrats don't have that, right? So, for example, you see in Alabama, right, it was Moore versus Strange, right? And again, it's terrifying that those were their two options. But when Strange lost, they were all able to rally behind Moore because they knew who Moore was. Whereas the Democrats haven't built that bench, but the Democrats do a much better job of saying, especially now, of saying, you know what, we do need to build a bench, but we're targeting younger progressives that are running in office now, right? So you see them taking more of an interest in Virginia. And Virginia is one of those states that realistically can flip the entire landscape politically. But Democrats are taking a much more vested interest in that because they want to see the progress, because the country always progresses. And again, progress may be slow, but the country always progresses under Democrats.
Yes.
You have Republicans who, again, it kind of feels similar to the NFL, the old guard versus the new guard, right? Where you see a guy like Jeffrey Lurie and Jed York, the owner of the 49ers, like they're the ones talking about, well, we should listen to these players. They have a lot to say. And you hear guys like Jerry Jones and, Cowboy Bob McNair saying, oh, we can't have the inmates running the prison. And no, this has to go away, or whatever the case may be. And the NFL is a microcosm of what's going on in this country.
Oh, absolutely.
And because I think what happens is you have some well-intentioned white folks, right, who think that okay, no, we know what's best for the blacks. We need to do this together, but we need to do it a different way. And then we have the full-on racist white folks like Jerry Jones and Bob McNair, who use obviously dog whistles that should be blown out of a damn foghorn at this point, right? Mm-hmm. And then you have the guys in the middle who are like, well, I really only care about my money and I don't really care about anything else. And the other guys are like, I care about my money, but I don't want to be the tax break, whatever. Like, that's kind of the middle ground. But the NFL very much has they're going to have a big problem on their hands, because you're talking about a league that is 77% African American, and you're refusing to listen to what they're telling you. Like, because that's the thing. Even like, pretend that you're listening if that's the case, right? But like, they're not even trying to do that. Like, they're just like, no, we're going to make them stand, and we're going to do this, and we're going to do that. And it's like, so what do you think is going to happen? And it's the same thing. Like, so we had the March for Racial Justice in September, right? And that's part of the work that I did that you mentioned with DC local ambassadors. So one of the things that I do is I handle logistics for marches, and I essentially led the march with like a group of 10 of us, right? And we had protesters getting into it with police. And again, MPD is way better at what they do than Baltimore police is, right? And like we saw that with the Freddie Gray handling and all that. Like, MPD at times gets it. We were fortunate that we had some decent police officers that day. So there was no need to like get in their face or anything like that. But I also understand what the police uniform triggers for certain folks. So I get that. But I remember when we reached the end, we had a bunch of police officers come to us and tell us, listen, thank you so much. Like, we're going to, this was great. This was really eye-opening for me. And I turned to one officer and I said, so are you going to go and talk to your department about what you saw? He's like, oh, well, I really can't do that. It's like, then you're not really helping me.
Yeah, there's nothing. That does something for you. Your thoughts and prayers don't really help here.
That's really help me at all, because you're gonna go back to Thanksgiving where you sit across from your Auntie Sue and she's gonna drop the N-word and you're gonna Auntie Sue, pass the peas. And It's like, you're not really committed to this. And that's kind of how I feel with the quote unquote well-intentioned whites. Like, yeah, sure, you're there, right? And you're like, because protest is the new brunch, and you want to take selfies at these protests or whatever. But you're going back to the same racist. You're going back to contributing to the same racist structure that you were contributing to before you decided to join us on this march on Sunday. And I think that's also another reason. And again, bringing it back to the race, like, Andrew Friedman is a guy that's running against me. So the race is 9 deep as of right now, right? And Andrew Friedman did an interview with Montgomery County media where they talked about, him and who he's running against, right? And I was the only one that was not included. Now, for me, I've spent my entire life, fighting against, you're too Spanish to be black. And no, you're too black to be Spanish. So I've dealt with that within my own community. But now, like, here it is, like, and Montgomery County pretends to be progressive, and they pretend to be, forward thinking. And you leave out the one black male candidate that's running, that lets me know that there's still a lot of work that we need to do in order to change that. And I think the best way to change that is to go out and beat them in June and then go win the general in November.
Yeah, absolutely. So, last thing, and then I'm gonna move on to some other topics we have here. I just want to go back to something you said before about that pipeline to, Microsoft's like, what's crazy is the pipelines do exist. It's just the problem is who gets them, right? Because Microsoft and these companies, I know for a fact, they definitely do partnership with certain schools. Sometimes not high schools, but they should do high schools. Sometimes they do, and they definitely do it with colleges and things like that. But it's always a matter of who and where, right? It's almost like, again, it goes back to the haves and have not. It's a privilege, you know, and it's not open to everybody. And again, it goes back to the idea of, you know, handouts. Well, if you think about it, these are handouts. These are how you do this, you know. When you talk about these tax cuts that the Republicans are pushing through, and they want these tax cuts, and like you said, like this, I completely forgot about this. Like you mentioned this, somebody else had made this point too, and I've seen it before, and I hate this. The whole thing about using average, right? You know, oh well, the average American is gonna get $4,000 tax rate. Like, no. You're splitting off. You're using what the top 1% is going to get, and they're throwing the averages off. Like, that's not what the most people are going to get. Most people are not going to see that money. It's going to go up to the top 1%, and you're going to tell us it's going to trickle down, and it's not going to do that. Stop using average. Average make things look a lot better. And again, if that's one thing in math people need to go back there and relearn and need to drill home is going back to the median and averages and things like that and showing just how much, you know, the top 1% can throw off what the averages are. Because if you look at what the average income is, you're like, oh, well, it's not that bad. And you're like, well, yeah, because you have a bunch of people over here making a lot of fucking money, and it makes it look a lot better than it really is.
Absolutely.
The average person is not. Most people are not making that money. The median is not there. It's just, it's just one of those crazy things that we really need to. It's crazy. So, I really hope. You said the race is in June.
So the primary is June 26th. And Montgomery County goes Democrat pretty much all the time when it comes to council races. I don't think they've elected a Republican into any of the vacant seats since like 2000 or something like that. So winning the primary essentially means like the seat is mine come November, because they're like, for example, on the Republican side, the guy who's running for their nomination is completely unopposed. So he'll win his, obviously, unless somebody announces over the next couple months. The deadline is February to announce. Primary is June 26th, and then winning that, then the general is November 7th.
Cool. We'll definitely be checking in with you on that and keeping an eye on that. So if you're in Montgomery County, please look out for Dalbin, and actually check out all the candidates and make sure that you're aware of the issue. Again, I think that's another thing that we don't do enough is also making sure that you understand that politics is local. You know, you have to pay attention to your local races and what's going on there, and there needs to be a better job of even the media making sure that information gets out there to people. So,
absolutely.
This episode is sponsored by the good folks over at tweakedaudio.com. Tweaked Audio has been a great partner to the MTR network over the years, and they have a great product. If you're listening to this show, then clearly you use headphones. Unless you're one of those assholes on public transportation blasting music over a speakerphone. Don't be that person. Pick up a pair of earbuds or headphones from Tweaked Audio. They have over-the-ear headphones as well as various types of earbuds in different colors. And now, they have a great pair of affordable Bluetooth earbuds that are perfect for working out and listening to us, your favorite podcast. At checkout, put the code REVIEWS in to get 30% off, free shipping, and free lifetime warranty. So check out tweakedaudio.com. Help yourself with a new pair of headphones and help us out as well. Now, back to the show. All right, so let's move on to some other topics here. I was gonna, I'm gonna do this one real quick because it's just a really quick one here. It's a kind of a follow up to our minutes trash thing from last week with Harvey Weinstein. I just want to throw out there that there is the report about the good journalist Mark Halperin has 5 women have accused journalist and Game Change co-author Mark Halperin of sexual harassment. If you guys don't know who Mark Halperin is, he is a constant figure on Morning Joe with Joe Scarborough and Mika Brzezinski. Matter of fact, he was on there, I want to say Monday. He was on a panel with them on Monday. He was. In the last 2 days, Mika's had to come out and again, this just shows you the sexism here. I'll get into that in a minute. All right. So, veteran journalist Mark Halperin sexually harassed women while he was in a powerful position at ABC News. According to 5 women who have shared their previously undisclosed accounts with CNN and others who did not experience the alleged harassment but were aware of it. During this period, I did pursue relationships with women that I work with, including some that junior to me. Halperin said in a statement to CNN Wednesday night. I now understand from some of these accounts that my behavior was inappropriate and caused others pain. For that, I am deeply sorry and I apologize. Under the circumstances, I am going to take a step back from my day-to-day work while I properly deal with the situation. Apparently, he was like rubbing his dick on women.
So I mean, for me, man, like, so I write on Medium, right? So I write like a lot of things, and one of the things that I wrote was about, and this was obviously before this broke, but it was how the right coupled hashtag that needs to be attached to the Me Too hashtag isn't not me, it's I did that, right? Because as men, we do contribute to the rape culture, and we contribute to the need for the Me Too hashtag. But then you hear something like him, like this, and his apology. Yeah, no, I did court relationships with women that were juniors. No, you didn't court relationships. You tried to sexually assault these women. And so I think for me, there's this rush from white men of power to white men who have power to dismiss it as just like, oh no, it was just a relationship, not realizing the trauma that they have now caused these women who now have to come forward and say, yeah, no, he did this to me. Yeah, no, he did this to me too. And the other part of that is I get exhausted by hearing like, oh, well, why did she come out sooner? Like, are you crazy? Like, these are people who, like, again, like, are probably married now with kids, and to essentially turn their lives upside down and come forward and say, yeah, so he did that to me too, and I've had to undergo years of therapy, and that's, and all this stuff. It's a lot to ask somebody who didn't do this to themselves to come forward and make it okay for a man or an assailant to say, yeah, no, guess what, I fucked up.
Yo, what's crazy to me is, again, and I said this when the Harvey Weinstein thing happened, I was like, hey, the media, you saw the media going off, I was like, oh, there's a Hillary Clinton has a Harvey Weinstein problem, Hollywood has a problem. Right. I'm like, you guys do realize that you guys have some of the same problems. Like you guys do realize what happened over at Fox News. You might want to slow down a little bit or check the people around you. And then the Mark Halperin thing happens. So that was the first 5. There's 4 new ones that came out. There are new 4 women, including the new accusations from 4 women include that Halperin masturbated in front of an ABC News employee in his office, and that he violently threw another woman against a restaurant window before attempting to kiss her, and that after she rebuffed him, he called her and told her she would never work in the politics and media again. Let me see if I can go through some of these things. So it was like, the first of the 4 new accusers who was at the time of the incident an ABC News desk assistant in their early 20s, told CNN that she had asked Halperin if she could meet with him for career advice in either 1997 or 1998. It was after 10 p.m. when she went to his office, she said. During the conversation, Halperin began to masturbate behind his desk while staring at her, the woman said. I sat in the chair across from him, she told CNN. He was behind a wooden desk, so I couldn't see him from the waist down. As we had a conversation about my career, he was masturbating. There was no question about it. I pretended like I didn't know what was going on, and we talked a little bit, and then he abruptly wrapped up the conversation, she continued. The woman told CNN it was clear what Halperin was doing. There was an up and down motion, she said. I don't know if he made any sound at the end or if it was clear to me that he had climaxed, or how it was clear to me that he had climaxed, but it was clear that he was satisfied. Like, he stopped making the motion and stopped staring at me. A longtime friend of the woman told CNN the story. The woman told her that story years ago. The second woman told CNN she met Halperin in late 1990s while she was interning at the White House. At the end of my internship, Mark said to me, "When you graduate from college, if you're looking for a job, call me." And I was super flattered and really excited. So when I graduated, I called Mark Halperin, she said. The woman told CNN that Halperin took her to lunch in Midtown Manhattan. They didn't talk about her career or jobs at all throughout the lunch, but she assumed that he knew it was why he called, and the topic would later be addressed. At the lunch, after they walked out of the restaurant, she said she extended her hand to shake him, and Halperin said he had other ideas. He put both hands on my arms, threw me against the window of the restaurant hard. So my head banged against the window hard, and in a way I thought people inside were going to think something terrible had happened to me. This was rough and hard and violent and not in a seductive way, in a way that telegraphed some anger and meanness. And he lunged at me, she continued, with his body pressing his mind against the window, and came out with his open mouth. The woman said she was able to avoid his attempt to kiss her, get out from under him, and walk away. After about 10 minutes later, she called him. I was really hoping he would, after 10 minutes, she said he called her. I was really hoping he would call in to apologize, and he had said something to the effect of, "You are never going to get a job. You are never going to be hired in politics or media. Why would anyone hire you?" And that's when I broke down and started crying. Uh-huh. 2 friends of the woman told CNN that the woman had told them about the incident more than a decade ago. A third woman who worked at the desk assistant at World News Tonight, told CNN that Halperin had hit on her at an office during the fall of 2006. Again, these people were saying, "Oh, it was just late. They were decades ago." Oh, this was fall. I mean, we're getting closer now. This is 2006. The woman provided CNN excerpts of the journal she kept at the time when she told CNN reference Halperin, although it only referred to the man as an older man who was involved with somebody else and has a powerful position at ABC. He cornered me in the coffee closet and introduced himself. The journalist said, and knowing of course who he is, his national significance and his importance in news, I squandered. I was a little nervous. I told him he had been eyeing me. I noticed he had been eyeing me. He's in the newsroom a lot, but I figured he was looking at the monitors behind me. Later, the woman wrote in the journal that the man pulled her aside when she was alone, and he whispered, "How old are you? Do you have a boyfriend? And do you understand how important it is that we remain secretive?" With that, he told me he wanted to meet me in his office before I left for the night. Knowing perfectly well that his intentions were wrong, I went to him anyway, if anything, to save my dignity, stand up for myself for seeming more interested or suggestive than I was. At that time, the woman's account in the journal said the man told her he was extremely attracted to her. The woman told Halperin it was best that they remain professional, but he didn't listen. As I gathered my things to leave, he leaned in to kiss me. I turned my head away, but he would not relent, she wrote in the journal. So in awkwardness and pressure of the moment, I let him put his lips on mine. It was nothing, not a kiss, just lips on lips. He smelled like makeup. I went home and wanted to cry and vomit.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing, right? That's kind of the crazy thing is that, like, those kinds of stories, like, I even read one, and I'm trying to remember.
Is it the one where you put a dick on her? I got that one next. This is the next one. Yeah. A fourth woman who was 19-year-old ABC News intern in 1995 told CNN she was assigned to a political unit. She said she was working on a project when Halperin personally volunteered one night to assist her. He said he would go with her to a museum in New York City to review some archived CBS footage. I remember thinking to myself, he's got 1 million associate producers, so why is he going with the intern to do research? The woman called to CNN, but said that at the time she was very impressed by him and thought he wanted to help her. And before I get any further, just think about it to me. Every one of these women are trying to, even to themselves, are kind of be like, they're trying to say that they're trying to combat people going, well, why'd you go with him? And I feel like women should not have to do that because, well, here's a guy at a powerful position at ABC, and he's saying he wants to help you with something. You take that opportunity. It's just what we were talking about. We were just talking about with you and getting opportunities and working with people and having people help you out. Like, This is what you tell people to do all the fucking time. So why would anybody turn this down? Like, a woman shouldn't have to try to put caveats and an explanation as to why she went with him. Well, of course you went with him. Like, why wouldn't you go with him? Why wouldn't you have dinner with him? It's called networking. It's called accepting help. You would go to do these things because it fucking makes sense.
Yep.
I remember thinking to myself, the woman said the booths for viewing footage at the museum were only meant for one person, but Halperin told her he wanted to share one. It was a tight fit, the woman said, so her cheeks were touching. When I looked over, he had a massive boner. Our legs were touching, and at that moment, I just flew up and got up. He said, the night's not over. We need to end it with a margarita. The woman said she declined.
See, and situations like that, like you said, like how many times have you been at a work happy hour, right? Or like your boss is like, oh, let's discuss this over coffee. Like I had the mayor of Chevy Chase had sent me an email that she wanted to grab coffee, right? Now again, I'm like, yeah, sure, that's fine, right? Because that's what you do. Like you go and you have coffee because that's what adults do. And the thing is, like, that's the thing too. That's what adults do. Adults can sit there and have a conversation and not have to worry about being groped or touched inappropriately or, worst case scenario, sexually assaulted. And that gets lost when you hear those stories and the people are like, oh, well, see, she went to dinner with him. She must have wanted it.
It's fucking crazy. Like, and here's the thing. So Halperin put out a full statement on Friday. I'm profoundly sorry for the pain and anguish that caused by my past action. I apologize sincerely to the women I mistreated. The world is now publicly acknowledging what so many women have long known. Men harm women in workplaces. The new awareness is, of course, a positive development. For a long time at ABC News, I was part of the problem. I acknowledge that and I deeply regret it. As I said earlier in the week, my behavior was wrong. It caused fear and anxiety with women who were only seeking to do their jobs. In recent days, I have recently read the accounts of women with whom I worked at ABC News. I have not read these accounts looking for discrepancy or inconsistency. Instead, in almost every case, I have recognized conduct for which I feel profound guilt and responsibility, some involving junior ABC News personnel and women just starting out in news business. Many of the accounts conveyed by journalists working on the stories about me or that I have read after publication have not been particularly detailed. These have been. I'm sorry. These were. Making it difficult for me to address certain specifics. But make no mistakes, I fully acknowledge and apologize for the conduct that was often aggressive and crude. Towards the end of my time at ABC, let me say, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but so basically, again, this is a PR job. Like, I'm not going to lie, in terms of PR and responses, the way versus like what Harvey Weinstein did. Like Mark Halperin, his PR person learned the right moves. It's like you're not calling the women liars. You're taking responsibility. You're saying you're doing this. But here's the thing. There should be no forgiveness here. Because I'm sorry. Like, this is fucking absurd. It's just, it is fucking absurd. Like, why would you think this is okay? And I'm not sure, but at this time he was probably fucking married at this time anyway. Right. So this idea of him just saying, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do it," well, is all forgiven now? Like, no. Like, and people go, "Well, what is he gonna do to?" He should go away. First of all, I've always thought that Mark Halperin was a fucking hack to begin with. He wasn't that fucking good, and he's been peak mediocre white guy. And if you've seen the way that he covered Hillary Clinton during the campaign, if you've seen the way he's covered any fucking woman, female political candidate, or just other any woman who comes on, who challenges him on set, like, if you see any of that, you see the disdain in his fucking face, you can tell Mark Halperin has a fucking problem with women. And it is not, it is no, the only woman you've ever seen him really okay with are the women on the set of Morning Joe who kind of just back and fall back to him and Joe anyway. That's why, it just goes back to the Morning Joe thing, which drove me crazy. The only people to make comments on Mark Halperin was Mika. The one woman on set. And again, I don't really give her an excuse because I think she's part of the fucking problem over there anyway. She's basically a fake white woman feminist where she only cares about her fucking self and that's it. But I think it's absurd that, especially the last statement she did a statement on Friday, and her statement basically read was something along the lines of, she was going through the whole thing about, I know Mark's a friend. I know them, but we also believe in women, and we think that he needs to get help. He needs to do blah, blah, blah. But at one point she says, and I speak for myself and Joe. I'm like, pause. No, you don't. Right. Joe is sitting right there beside you. Willie is on set. Donnie Deutsch is on set. They should be speaking for them. Why is it that Mika was the only one to read a prepared statement on camera about Mark Halperin? Joe Scarborough is sitting right there beside him. Joe Scarborough, who also backed up and piled on with Mark whenever it came to female politicians, Hillary and stuff like that. Right, all that stuff is sitting right there. Why are they not saying anything? Why do you look? I like Hellman. I think he's way less of a hack, and he's actually not a hack. He's actually really good. But look, why isn't Hellman there? Why wasn't he there to comment? I mean, this is this guy was a co-host. He co-wrote the book Game Change with Halperin. Yep. Like, where are the men to speak up on this? Like, Mika definitely needs to speak out because this is the second quote unquote friend that has been, because she was also a friend of, remember, before Donald Trump attacked Mika and Joe, the Donald was their friend, was somebody they knew, so this is the second person, so Mika definitely needed to speak out. But where is Joe? Joe had no problem speaking out against, the Rams players who put their hands up when they came out of the tunnel during the Ferguson riots. The Ferguson protests and riots and stuff like that. Like, what's going on here? Like, when you had no problem. He had no problem saying that, blaming Tamir Rice for being shot. He had no problem for doing any of that. He always had no problem opening his mouth with that kind of shit. But here comes a guy who was their friend, who was on their set. Matter of fact, if this came out if this broke on Wednesday, I guarantee you Mark Halperin was on set, or was either on set in person or was on remote on Wednesday morning when Morning Joe aired. He was there, and now Joe had nothing to say.
Yep. Because the optics matter, right? So, like, they figure, let's parade the woman out there because this will show, you know what? Not all women think, that he's a predator or whatever the case may be. It is telling for me. And again, like when Trump turned on Joe and Minka, everybody was like, oh, see, like not everybody, there were some folks who were like, man, that's so crazy. Like, look at Joe defending his partner's honor and blah, 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 whatever the case may be. But people forget that for a year and a half, Joe Scarborough was the #1 megaphone for the Hillary is worse than Trump like smear campaign, essentially, right? Like he was the equivalent of Trump being able to have 24/7 access in the media. It was Joe Scarborough soundbite saying, you know, Hillary's going to send us into World War III and, you know, and all these things. And I think they've always never cared about optics and how things look. And this is another example of that, because now what you've done is now you've paraded this woman who had to defend herself from a known sexual predator just a couple of months ago. You've now paraded her in front of the cameras to defend herself, to defend a sexual predator. And it's one of those things where we would never do that, right? Like we would never, and it's why courts make it so accusers don't have to face the accused, right? Because it's traumatic and because you don't want to put them through that. And again, I couldn't care less about Minka as a person, but in terms of just from what it looks like, why is it that the woman needs to sit there and defend the sexual predator? Like, why, like you said, why aren't the other men coming forward and saying, because you're right. I remember Mark was on Monday, like in the studio on Monday. So you had this guy in the studio 3 days before this broke. So
they were laughing up about baseball, you know?
Exactly. And now you parade Minka out there to say, yeah, no, take the heat for us because he's our friend, but we're going to let you do this.
Yeah, it speaks volumes to me, because before it was like, Harvey Weinstein, Hillary Clinton, and then they took money from Harvey Weinstein. When is Hillary Clinton going to come out and deny and put a statement out about Weinstein, right? And people were counting down about, the media was counting down to when Hillary Clinton was going to mention to comment on Harvey Weinstein and say something about here. How many of them have been complicit with Mark Halperin? And apparently, again, just like Harvey Weinstein, everybody knew about Halperin. And now you have a bunch of people like Kriss, people have been hitting up Kriss about, hey, yeah, so when are you going to comment about, you were asking Hillary Clinton about denying Harvey Weinstein, commenting on Harvey Weinstein, when are you going to comment on Mark Halperin? Oh, well, I didn't really know him like that. No, I really didn't. Like, people are like, yo, you worked with him. You were on... Like, right. You guys were both on. You're on CNN now, but you were both on MSNBC for the longest time. What are you talking about? You don't know Mark Halperin. Are you fucking kidding me right now? You never talked to Mark Halperin. You've been covering the fucking election and you don't know Mark Halperin. Are you fucking kidding me right now? Like, it is one of those things that are just like, are you serious? It's just so quick to go, oh wait, now it's on me. Well, it's different now. It's just so fucking bullshit. So just wanted to throw that out there.
100%. 100%. No, I agree. And I think it's disgusting, man. I think it's terrible that, again, in this society, because it's a societal problem. It's this belief that the women need to let us off the hook. And again, Minka is all sorts of trash. But I also think that it's telling that the network said, yeah, no, we're going to put her out there to put out this fire. And that's disheartening to be polite, but it's disgusting to be truthful.
Yeah. So, all right. So moving on. So there's something that we were talking about before. Education, stuff like that, and we're getting some Trump stuff here, because we have the Bob Mueller. Apparently, the report right now is that he's sending out the first indictments this week. I still don't believe that it'll be anything like collusion or even to get the Trump campaign himself and stuff like that. But it kind of explains why this entire week, and I've been saying this for a while. The entire week they've been trying to, like, Fox News and any Republican. I was watching somebody this morning, was on CNN, some Republican talking head, and was trying to bring up Hillary Clinton and uranium and all this other stuff. And it's like, right. Remember when I think it was during either the 2004 or 2008 campaign. I think it must have been the 2004 campaign or something like that. And Julie, it wasn't during the campaign. It was someone else, but Giuliani was running, and people were like, his whole thing was a noun or verb in 9/11. The GOP has turned into a noun or verb in Hillary Clinton for everything that goes on. So, like, down to the point that apparently Corey Lewandowski was on Fox News either yesterday or something like that, and apparently he said, no, the real question is about we need to ask about the Clinton administration. I'm like, Hillary Clinton didn't win the election. She's not around. It's the Trump administration. Like, to the point, like, she is, like, people wonder why Hillary Clinton doesn't stay out as much as she does. Because when she comes out, like when she had the book came out, everybody tells her to go away again. And she doesn't, Trump keeps her, and Trump and the Republicans keep her name in their mouths so goddamn much. And it's because they're trying to distract from everything else because they have nothing else. So they always know their only thing is, and I think it's brilliant the way she's doing this, is about staying out of it, is the only thing that the Republicans had is to mention Clinton. Like, they've been doing it for 25, 30 years now. Their only thing to do is to attack the Clintons. And I'm not saying the Clintons are perfect, they don't have their problem. They definitely do. But it's like, at this point, like, why are you still talking about Hillary Clinton? She's not in office. Neither Clinton is in office. She's never going to run again for president. She's never going to run again for office. Leave her out of this. So it's like, so you're like, what is going on? It's like, oh, the Mueller investigation. That's what's going on. And the thing about it is, like, these kinds of distractions for, like, I think people always tell the wrong people to not be distracted by this, because it's not people like us. Like, we're not distracted. It's their own base. It's the Republican base. It's the people that we can't reach out to. And I've decided it's because they're just too stupid. I saw somebody did this. Somebody, and I fully believe this. I can't verify this, but I'm pretty sure this came out, and I think it was Trump was. It's a transcript of Trump. Trump gave an interview, and they released a transcript of it. And this is, I'm just going to read it because it's so fucking all over the fucking place, all right? And here we go. So it's like, look, having nuclear, my uncle was a great professor and scientist and engineer. Dr. John Trump at MIT. Good genes, very good genes. Okay, very smart. The Wharton School of Finance, very good, very smart. You know, if you're a conservative Republican, if I were liberal, or if I ran as liberal Democrat, they would say I'm one of the smartest people anywhere in the world. It's true. But when you're a conservative Republican, they try, do they do a number? That's why I started off. That's why I always start off. Went to Wharton, was a good student, went there, did this, built a fortune. You know, I have to give my credentials all the time because we're at a little disadvantage. But you look at the nuclear deal. We're back to nuclear right now. We're back to nuclear because, like, again, I'm reading this straight. Like, this is not, everything I'm saying is in the fucking transcript. The thing that really bothers me, it would not have been so easy, and it's not as important as these lives. Nuclear is powerful. My uncle explained that to me many, many years ago. The power that was 35 years ago, he would explain the power of what's going to happen. He was right. Who would have thought? But when you look at what's going on with the 4 prisoners now, it used to be 3. Now it's 4. But when it was 3, even now, I would have said it's all in the messenger, fellas, and it is, fellas, because you know they haven't figured that women are smarter right now than men, so you know it's going to take them about 150 years. But the Persians are great negotiators, and the Iranians are great negotiators. So they just killed us.
Yep. And honestly, he sounds like a stroke victim, right? Just repeating the same thing over and over again. And the funny thing is, like, the only thing, when I read the transcript, because I refuse to watch him speak because it gives me a headache, but like I'll read the transcripts, and that was the one thing that stood out was that they haven't realized that the women are smarter than them, right? And I was like, okay, but it's surrounded by so much malarkey, so much nonsense, right? And so many like incoherent threads. Like, do you remember in when the post-credit scene from Cap's Winter Soldier, where they showed the twins, right? They showed Scarlet Witch and they showed Quicksilver, right? Mm-hmm. And Quicksilver's just bouncing off the walls, essentially, right? Like, that's all he's doing, just bouncing off the walls, right? That's kind of how I picture Trump's mind is, right? Like, it's just that. Like, it's just bouncing back and forth over whatever it is he wants to say. Like, it's mind-boggling to me. You're right, it's a distraction. And we always see it when he ramps up his tweets and he starts to talk about, like, this week, the one thing he was talking about was, now there is 100% certainty that there was no collusion between my campaign and the Russians. It was Hillary. And then you have, Corey Lewandowski come out and say, the Clinton administration thing. Like, I firmly believe that they were not banking on Trump winning or didn't and meaning because they didn't think Trump was going to collude to win or whatever the case may be. And they were hell bent on obstructing her some more because that's what the GOP used to. Like, so now that they have to govern, right? Now that they actually have to do something, they don't know how to do that, right? Because you're talking about, and this is the thing, this is why Barack, and again, and I'll tie it back into Barack because I think that Barack caught a lot of flack early on for not using the bully pulpit as much as he should have, right? When he had control of the House and the Senate, just coming out and saying, no, I'm going to ram everything through, right? Barack wanted to be bipartisan and didn't want to be the angry black man and whatever the case may be, right? But his legacy is that he was able to pass the Affordable Care Act, was able to wind down the war in Iraq and Afghanistan, and was able to legalize same-sex marriage, all these things. And this is despite being obstructed for the last 6 to 7 years, right? Yeah. So now here it is. Trump has control of both the House and the Senate and can't get anything passed. Nothing. Yeah. Like nothing gets done. Even the bipartisan stabilization bill between Murray and the other, and Alexander, like that's a good bill, right? That's a legitimate bill, and he will not let it pass. So we talked about this before we came on the show, like losing him, because I think he is the best thing to happen to Democrats. Because again, one, Democrats are trying to rebuild their bench by getting younger progressives into office, right? So they're trying to do that. They're trying to get younger folks to run for different campaigns, get on as campaign managers and social media directors and things like that. A lot of that is a direct response to Trump. A lot of that is. And I wonder if now when you remove him, because again, that could be what we're heading towards. Now, I'm more hopeful than you are. I do think we're heading towards collusion, because I do think that the bar to clear for collusion is so low. Like, it doesn't even have to be successful. You just have to demonstrate that the Trump campaign had an intent to collude with Russia. And if it's true that Don Jr. went to this meeting in order to obtain information from Hillary Clinton that the Russians had illegally obtained, there's your collusion right there. So maybe we get Don's son. But again, is it really that feasible to say, yeah, remove him? Because he hasn't done anything. So realistically, you keep him in there until 2018, take back the House, and then you ram everything through, and he's got to work with you in order to be able to pass anything over the last 2 years.
Yeah, I've said before that I am not rooting for because even with the whole thing about war, North Korea, and things like that, I still believe that there's rhetoric, and then there's the cooler heads that actually believe that they know that's a bad idea and that we don't want to do that and that the country doesn't want to do that. So outside of that, though, nobody's been able to convince me that impeaching Trump is a good thing, because you impeach Trump, the next person, in order to impeach Trump and make it good, you have to impeach the entire line of succession. Because if you don't impeach Trump, if you just impeach Trump, well, the next person up is fucking Mike Pence, and now you have somebody who actually will work with the actual Republicans in the House and Republicans in the Senate, who knows how to get things through, and then you see the things that Trump is hinting at and wanting to get done actually getting done. I'm gonna come back to that, because I want to talk about some of the senators that are retiring, things like that. But just in case anybody thought that I was making up that transcript, I think
having nuclear. My uncle was a great professor and scientist and engineer, Dr. John Trump at MIT. Good genes, very good genes. Okay, very smart. The Wharton School of Finance, very good, very smart. You know, if you're a conservative Republican, if I were a liberal, if I ran as a liberal Democrat, they would say I'm one of the smartest people anywhere in the world. It's true. But when you're a conservative Republican, they try, do they do a number? That's why I always thought went to Wharton, was a good student. Went there, did this, built the, I have to give my credentials all the time, because we're at a little disadvantage. But you look at the nuclear deal, the thing that really bothers me, it would have been so easy, and it's not as important as these lives are. Nuclear is so powerful. My uncle explained that to me many, many years ago, the power, and that was 35 years ago. He would explain the power of what's going to happen, and he was right. Who would have thought? But when you look at what's going on with the 4 prisoners, now it used to be 3. Now it's 4. But when it was 3, and even now, I would have said it's all in the messenger. Fellas, and it is fellas, because, they haven't figured that the women are smarter right now than the men, so, it's going to take them about another 150 years. But the Persians are great negotiators. The Iranians are great negotiators. So, and they just kill.
I told you, that shit was fucking real, dog. He actually said that shit. He's that fucking stupid. Like, when you, and this is why I go back to people are stupid, because, you hear this and you don't go, this man is nuts. Forget policy. And I've said it before, because to me, and we'll get into this, like, you have all these Republicans now are just saying, we got Donald Trump, we're gonna retire and things like that. And I'm like, they're just as bad as Trump. But the problem is right now is not that they have a problem with what Trump is saying, what he's trying to get done, like the policy problems, right? Like the policy problems of Trump are no different than the policy problems of George W. Bush or any other fucking Republican that was running in the race this year. Like the I'm sorry, but the Republicans are fucking trash. They just are. I have not come across any decent Republican policies or plans that look out for anybody other than people that are already doing okay and they're already at the top 1%, right? So I just don't believe them. I just don't believe in the Republican Party at all. But when you hear,
I'm with you.
Right? But when you hear Trump speak, I don't understand. I don't understand how people listen to Trump speak. Listen to fucking Ted Cruz, who is equally as bad. Like Ted Cruz is terrible. He's a terrible human being as well. How anybody looked at Ted Cruz and went like, no, I'm gonna go with the guy who's over here rambling about nuclear. Like he went from talking about nukes to talking about Whartons to talking about grades and being smart to then talking about prisoners being held in Iran and like, where was he going with that? That entire, it was a minute and a half of rambling. What the fuck was he talking about? There wasn't a coherent thought whatsoever in anything he said right there. So how do you listen to that shit and go, yep. You tell him. Tell him, Donald. You tell him, Donald. This man right here, he's gonna go somewhere.
Yeah, no, it doesn't make any sense. And I mean, you're talking about a guy who, remember, he accused Ted Cruz's dad of killing Kennedy, right?
Right.
Insulted Ted Cruz's wife. I think he called John Kasich like Little John or something like that, right? He was super dismissive of John Kasich. Insulted McCain, right? Said, nah, he's only a hero because he was captured. I like my prisoners who aren't captured. And think about how insulting that is to veterans and all prisoners of war, right? So they said that. He's the strongest military. He's strongest for the military. Nobody believes in the military more than me, except for the people that are prisoners of war and war heroes, and that's who I exactly. Or he turns around and jokes that Mike Pence wants to electrocute all gay people. Like he's able to joke like that and laugh that off. Or yesterday he tells a little girl as he's handing her a Halloween treat. A Halloween bag. He's like, "Oh, thank God you don't have a weight issue." Like, think about that. Like, these are the things.
Oh my God! Did he really? Like, I saw the photo of him with the little kids because all the kids looked at him like he was crazy. Yes. And I saw somebody say that he insulted the kids or he insulted the parent, and I was like, you know what? It's too much. I can't read it. I didn't know that's what. Oh my God.
Yeah. He turned. So yeah, like he insulted the media. He was like, "Oh, you know what? Like, I can't believe that the media produced such cute kids." But then he turned to one kid and he was like, "Yeah, you can take as many as you want. Good thing you don't have a weight issue." Like, how do you say that to a little girl? Like, what the hell is wrong with you? And I got super rapey vibes from him when he was like, "Oh, come here, sweetie, stand right here, like calling over some little girls." I'm like, listen, man.
Well, he did. Remember he said about the 10-year-old pageant.
Yes.
So it's like, yo, he's one of those guys. Like, so it's like everything here, and so that's when you realize that, and it's not just Republicans, it's also his voters. They don't really give a shit about Donald Trump himself. They care about this fantasy world they create. You know what it reminds me? It reminds me because, we're probably not going to get into a lot of this, so we'll have to bring you on another time to talk more about like the fun stuff like comic books and stuff like that. But like, it reminds me about how all these white comic retailers and some of these fanboys get mad at diversity in comics, and I'm like, but they've always been diverse. Like, I've had people comment on, like, they don't like Star Trek Discovery because it's SJWs, and I'm like, but Star Trek's always been SJWs. And so it's like, what is the psychosis that you have where you watched this stuff or you read this stuff and you didn't realize what it was? It's like when these people listen to Donald Trump and they hear this coherent, like intelligent, successful man. How? Just like how these people who grew up reading X-Men, but it wasn't, it wasn't SJW. It's like, yeah, they were. It's always been this way.
They were the SJW,
right?
Actually, if you want to be honest. Yeah, no, that's what
fucking like Black Panther. Stan Lee made Black Panther. There was an issue where Black Panther fucking fought the KKK. Like, come on, yo. Like, He fought the goddamn KKK. What are we talking about right now? What are we doing here?
I mean, Captain America was built, Steve Rogers was turned into the super soldier to go kill Nazis, like Nazis, actual Nazis that were running with Hitler. And even that, like that's why, like when I hear like some folks are like, man, I love the Cap movies. Look at him beating up all these bad guys, and they're like, yeah, but you know what? There are both sides. Like there are good people on both.
Right. You know,
side. It's like, well, which one is it, dude? Like, no, and you're right. I mean, it's mind-boggling because even with the X-Men, like, they didn't deal with any oppression. What are you talking about? They are the oppressed people in the entire Marvel universe. They're mutants. Who the government builds these robots to go hunt them. Like,
God Loves, Man Kills is basically like the enemy in that book is human beings and they're being racist. Yes. Like I'll never forget where that one guy points at Nightcrawler and looks at Night and points like, look at that creature over there. Like it's that's what it is. I'm like, what are you guys talking about? It's so fucking crazy. So, but it goes back to the Republicans, right? Like the Republicans are doing this whole thing where they're like, oh well, you know, Trump's finally and I'm like, and I'm tired of the media trying to give Republicans credit right now for standing up for Trump. Because one, is too late. Right. I mean, yeah, they should stand up for Trump, but we need to also have some nuance here and understand why Republicans are standing up to Trump. They're not standing up to Trump because they finally had a conscience and they're trying to put party over country. I mean, country over party. No, just like during the election, they put party over country. They're doing the same thing now. Right now, when you're seeing Republicans standing up against Donald Trump, they are fighting against they're trying to save the Republican Party. That's all it is. They don't give a fuck about us. Like I'm gonna play right now. This is Jeff Flake, who's getting all this praise for being on the floor of the Senate and giving his standing up to Donald Trump on the floor of the Senate. Right?
Incumbency is certainly not the point of seeking office, and there are times when we must risk our careers in favor of our principles. Now is such a time. We must stop pretending that the degradation of our politics and the conduct of some in our executive branch are normal. They are not normal. Reckless, outrageous, and undignified behavior has become excused and countenanced as telling it like it is, when it is actually just reckless, outrageous, and undignified. When a leader correctly identifies real hurt and insecurity in our country and instead of addressing it goes to look for someone to blame, there is perhaps nothing more devastating to a pluralistic society. We have fooled ourselves for long enough that a pivot to governing is right around the corner. We know better than that.
So Jeff Flake got a lot of respect and got a lot of praise from the media on this one, and all I have to say is fuck Jeff Flake. I'm sorry. Who the fuck is we? Who the fuck is we? We've been telling you Donald Trump had been fucking. I'm gonna play something real quick. This is from 2011. This is Jeff Flake. When Jeff Flake's acting like this is new or something like that. This is Jeff Flake, and he had a good answer here. But this is from 2011. Him being asked about birthers.
I want to ask you another about a different topic right now because it's gotten a lot of attention out of a new poll that says the majority of Republican primary voters are now birthers. This is according to the new public policy survey. Only 28% of people who say they're going to be voting in the primary that were asked in this poll believe that Barack Obama was born in the United States. 51% don't, and 21% say they're not sure. So you basically have a combined 72% of people who don't strongly believe the president was born in the United States. What is your reaction?
Well, I have a hard time believing that poll. I think that most people understand and accept the reality. And the reality is that, yes, he was born in the United States. So I hope that that's not an issue going forward.
2011. 6 years ago. 6 years ago, you said, "Oh, no, you don't want to believe it." The person who's head of your party, who's in the White House now, Donald Trump, pushed that even further. It's probably why so many of the so here you have Jeff Flake again, and I'm not going to hit him on this because he gave a good answer as far as yes, President Obama is a citizen of this country. He said it several times. I'm not going to sit there and say that Jeff Flake was being a birther in that case. But then 6 years later, he gets onto the floor of the Senate, and it's like, oh, well, we cannot be complicit. We got to do all this stuff. And that's all fine. And again, he's late to the party, and I'm not going to give him credit for saying that shit. But here's where him and all these other fucking Republicans are fucking cowards. He's also not seeking re-election. So when you tell me that... Right, huh?
No, I say which bothers me because I think, okay, you really want to beat Trump, seek re-election.
Yeah. Yeah, that's my thing. It's like, and I've seen the flip side of this. Some people going, "Hey, we lose Jeff Flake here," and that opens up a seat for Democrats to fight for and may possibly win. Right, in Arizona. And again, like, here's the thing. Maybe that's possible, and I get the logistics on that and the strategy behind that, which in that case it is good. But here's where it's bad. Jeff Flake is not doing this. Like, you can't give Jeff Flake credit for standing up to Trump, then being a coward and tucking his tail and fucking running. You can't do that then. Like, fine, hey, we want to celebrate Jeff Flake getting out of the fuck. Because here's the thing, he's fucking terrible. I'm not a Jeff Flake fucking fan when it comes to his policies and his politics. All right, so I'm happy to see him fucking go. I'm not happy to see him go and try to be sent out like John McCain being sent out with, oh well, Jeff Flake's doing it for the country and stuff like that. Like, no, if you actually were doing it for the country, if you were actually doing it so you didn't give a shit about Donald Trump, you were doing it because sometimes you got to be bold and sometimes you got to stand up and don't care about if you're going to win an election or not. You speak truth to power and you run for election again. You don't do it. It's easy to speak out when there's no stakes on the line. There's no stakes right now for Jeff Flake. You have no stakes because you're cutting because you probably won't win because he was already kind of underwater. So and again, he's not losing to a Democrat. He's losing to more extreme fucking Republicans. So instead of fighting that extremism, you're going to tuck your tail and say, "Oh well, I can't do it anymore. I'm done." Which is like the most cowardly thing to do. I'm sorry. I get the Democrats cheering and saying, hey, that's a seat we can compete for. That's fine. Strategy's fine. But when it comes to the fortitude of Jeff Flake, the fortitude of Corker, the fortitude of someone like Orrin Hatch, fuck them. They are cowards. They are the definition of goddamn cowards. They are all, they had no problem. Imagine, you know what this is? Obama didn't quit. Obama had to deal with the same shit these motherfuckers are dealing with. And Obama didn't quit. He doubled down. He stuck by his fucking guns. And he kept persevering through it all. These white fucking mediocre men are going to fucking quit. They are quitters. They are quitting right now, and we are giving them the equivalent of a participation fucking trophy. And I don't care about giving participation trophies to kids, because, hey, they're fucking kids. But these are grown-ass men getting participation trophies because they can no longer stand for what they're doing. And again, it's not like they're standing up against bigotry. Because I was watching Morning Joe this morning, and I keep forgetting the pastor names he's bringing on here, but he's always on there. And he broke down, like, Orrin Hatch votes with Donald Trump 96% of the time. Yes, Corker and Flake vote for Trump 90% of the fucking time. So they're not running for re-election, and they're not standing up to Trump because they disagree with him on policy issues. They disagree with him because he's standing in the way of their fucking agenda. You know? That's the only reason.
Well, and it's also I connected to like when Catwoman in The Dark Knight Rises is like, listen, I'm gonna blow that bridge, but I'm leaving. Like, I'm not gonna stay here. Like, essentially, I'm running. So I think it's partly that. I also think, Flake gave that speech and then late that night voted to remove consumer protections against financial institutions. So for me, it's like, that's great that you can talk it. And yeah.
Who was the senator that showed him a goddamn tux for that?
Yeah, exactly. I'm drawing a blank on the name, but here's what I'm saying. It's not. You could say all you want, but realistically, you still voted with Trump later that night to make things substantially harder for people that look and sound like me.
Like, they make these speeches, him, John McCain, do all, and then they literally voted, and one of these motherfuckers was in a goddamn tux, looking like the Monopoly man, and voted to fucking protect what? It's like, we have to say, if you listen to us on the Nerd Off, you hear us say they have this thing now. We call it Marvel level problems, right? And it's like saying, hey, listen, when it comes to the movies, Marvel Studios, and I saw Thor Ragnarok, it's fucking great. I'm gonna put out a YouTube video to give a little non-spoiler review on it later on this weekend.
Can't wait.
It's fucking great. But Marvel Studios is great. Like, I was going through it yesterday, and their lowest rated movie is Thor: The Dark World. And it was like at 66% on Rotten Tomatoes. Like, that is their floor. It's 66% on Rotten Tomatoes, right? Mm-hmm. So when we say Marvel level problems, it's like, yo, I'm not saying they're perfect. I'm saying that they have things to work on, but that's a problem you work on when you're already good enough. Like if we just deal with that, like it's good enough. I feel like that's Democrats. I'm not saying Democrats are perfect, but a lot of the problems people have with Democrats, I feel like they're Marvel level problems. Like, yeah, okay, like for instance, Obama and drones. Yeah, man, that's a problem. We should deal with that. We don't need to be having drones over there. We don't need to be doing. I'm not saying we shouldn't talk about that shit, but like, you sandwich Obama in between George W. Bush, who started 2 wars, and Donald Trump, who within a year is already talking about nuclear war with North Korea. I gotta say, drones ain't the top of my priority list right now. I'm not saying we shouldn't talk about them. I'm not saying it's not a problem, but it's such a Marvel level problem, and that's how I look at and that's how I look at like. The fucking, like, Republicans, it's like, yeah, Democrats also have problems with Wall Street. But you literally had Republicans showing up in tuxes, looking like the Monopoly man, to literally vote down consumer protection program. It's like, what are we doing here, man? What are we doing? And again, to me, making a hero out of Jeff Flake is like when we make a hero out of Joe Scarborough, right? Yeah. I feel like so many Republicans are more at this point, Donald Trump has skewed it, so we think every bad Republican is Donald Trump or like, what is it, Roy Moore or whoever that, Roger Moore or whatever that guy is. We think they're so over the top, they're so homophobic and bigoted that's what it is, and they're so outwardly with it, right? I'm like, no. Most Republicans are Joe Scarborough, which they're just as bad as Trump. They just know how to hide it. Yep. You know, like you can tell with Joe Scarborough. Like I always go back to the thing with Ferguson, and because Ferguson was happening around the same time, I think, as Eric Gardner and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And I remember when that happened, Joe Scarborough was like, oh, well, you know, Black Lives Matter was building a lie, and the hands up, don't shoot was a lie, blah, 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 because he read like part of the fucking the Department of Justice report, which wasn't the complete story, right? The Department of Justice is basically like, we can't refute the stuff that happened, and there were some conflicting things there, even though just like common sense tells you, whatever, right? But he was like, well, they should have focused more on something like Eric Gardner. Like that's a good one. Like he wanted to be the purveyor of what was a good one. Yeah. No, basically what he said is like, that's one that we can all get behind. Like he wanted to be the one to say which black life mattered the most that we could get behind. I'm like, that's what makes Joe Scarborough so fucking dangerous. You know, Mika was the one that was like, when Waka Flocka canceled his concert that he was going to do at the school with the SAE, with the SAE chant where they were chanting about hang a nigga from a tree or something like that on the bus. She got more mad at Waka Flocka for canceling. She was like, started reading his lyrics. He says this stuff and he says this stuff and he's over here making. And I'm like, are you fucking serious right now? But those are the kind of people you got to worry about. Those kind of the Mika Democrats and the Joe Scarborough Republicans. Those are the ones who don't think they're the ones who don't think they're bigoted, but they are fucking bigoted, and they know how to hide it. The ones that go, well, you know, I support your cause, but can't you do it over there a little bit? You know, I support kneeling for the flag. I mean, I support your protest, but can you just not kneel? Can you not just the flag? It's just like that kind of shit, because they know they're smart enough to know you can't say that. But they believe it. So you get these Republicans who sit there and go, they're speaking up now. When you look at their voter record, it's like, okay, you were going to vote to take away health care. But like 3 of you guys. It was like 3 or 4 of you guys voted against that. And honestly, I don't even put John McCain in that category, even though we did vote against that stuff. John McCain, here's the thing. John McCain is Cotton Hill from King of the Hill. All right?
Yes.
He is definitely Cotton Hill. He is a cantankerous old man. And when you piss him off, whether it's deserved or not, he acts petty. So during Obama, the first 2 years of Obama's campaign, he was super petty because Obama beat him. I remember this shit. He was super fucking petty, right? Yep. Now that Trump is going after McCain's being petty at Trump and voting down his shit. So the first time I think that maybe it was more along the same line, but that's why he made it so dramatic. The second time he was going to vote for Graham Cassidy
for the skinny repeal. Yep,
he was going to vote for it, but then Donald Trump acted like an asshole. So then McCain goes, "Oh, fuck you too, then." So you can't even give McCain credit for voting against these things because he's not doing it to be brave. He's not voting. He's not doing it for the people. He's doing it because he's an old fucking petty ass man, and that's it. He's just being petty towards Donald Trump. These people they're fucking selfish. They don't care about us. They don't care about the fucking people. And I know people say this shit about Democrats, but I'm like, listen, way more than Republicans do. Like, come on.
Way more.
It just drives me fucking crazy, man. Like, seeing this shit and seeing these Republicans getting credit for this shit when they're doing the bare minimum. I mean, they're not even doing the bare minimum. These motherfuckers are quitting. Not even the bare minimum. They're giving a speech to quit. They're quitting. They're taking their ball and they're going home. They're going to basically say that, well, I can't win a re-election in this environment and in this time because of basically the shit you ginned up. Remember, they were giving they gave rise to the Tea Party. They indulged people like Donald Trump. They indulged all these people, and now it's Frankenstein's monster that's gotten out of control, and now they're mad that it's going to consume them. It's like, and now you want to tuck tail and run. And leave us to deal with it. No, you don't get credit for that shit. Deal with it. You don't get credit for that shit. Well, and that's the biggest thing.
Like, Murkowski and Collins are the only ones that, like, I give more credit to them.
Oh, absolutely.
They voted it down the first time, and they voted no for the skinny repeal. And they came out way before McCain or anybody else, like anybody twisting in the wind. They were like, yeah, no, we're not going to vote for that. Murkowski was like, nah, that damages my people way too much. And again, I can respect that, right? I can respect that way more. I think that's who the heroes pieces need to be written about. I think with McCain, you're right. I think you nailed it on the head. He's a petty, petty man. The one thing that I do say to McCain, and I think and the one thing that I do give him credit for is that when he was going to events and people were coming to him like, oh, I'm scared that, Barack, a Muslim, might be president or whatever. McCain defended that. Like, McCain was like, he's not a Muslim. He was born here. He was a great man. We just have different ideas on how to run the country, right? Then he got smoked, right? Because Barack smoked him. And yeah, you're right. He was super petty for like the first 2.5, 3 years. So yeah, but I think with McCain in particular, I think McCain, it's very, very much like if Trump pisses him off, and again, because I think he still has some of that clout, that old guard clout. If Trump pisses him off, he's not going to get anything passed. Like now he's pissed off Flake, but he didn't piss off Flake enough to not vote with him because he voted later on to remove consumer protections from.
Well, even McCain still like McCain still on healthcare, but everything else he still votes with him on. Like
everything else is still voting for him, exactly.
And
you're still a Republican.
Yeah. And I'll say this one thing, and then we'll move on to Do You Even Sci-Fi Bro? I don't even give McCain credit for it. I know what time you're talking about with him coming out to that woman, the old woman who came out on the floor and said that McCain was him.
Yeah.
I don't even give him credit for that because you want to know why? Because before then he was fucking silent when his runner mate at the time, Sarah Palin, was going around doing like, and that's my thing. It's like these guys, they only and again McCain's a little less than everybody else, but he falls in the same category that they do this, like They don't care until it's real, until it confronts them. Right, until it confronts, until he was confronted at his own fucking rally, and he was put on the spot to do it. McCain, at that point, he had to take the mic. He had to do that because it made it too real. But when he had like other people doing it or people around him, you have plausible.
Letting them do it.
Yeah, you have plausible deniability, and you can kind of do it that way and stuff like that. And again, it's all cowardly. And I know here I am calling a man who's a war hero a cowardly, but when it comes to this, when it comes to politically being a coward, he's a fucking coward. Yep. They're all fucking cowardly right now because they were anything else. Because here's the thing. Think about that, and think about the patriarchy behind this shit too, right? Because first of all, Collins and Murkowski, they were really the driving force behind stopping the Republican bill for healthcare, right? They were the ones. But who gets all the fucking credit? McCain does for getting that last bill, for coming in last minute, right? They've not only spoken up and said they were going to do this. Both of them, I can't remember if it was Collins or McCall, one of them has already said that they're gonna. I'm not quitting. I'm staying in the Senate.
It was Collins, Collins said it.
And I respect, right? And I respect that. Like I might not respect all her positions on fucking policy, but I at least respect her the decision of having the president say he's gonna come at her and things like this, and her saying "fuck it," I'm staying in. Where all these other men are basically tucking tail and running. Like think about it. Orrin Hatch has been in fucking Congress fucking forever. All right?
Yeah.
He's old as shit. And now he decides he's gonna fucking retire. You couldn't retire under fucking Obama? You couldn't retire. No. Now. It's like now again, it shows you that Republicans can't fucking lead. They can't fucking govern. They should after Trump, and I know it's not going to happen because again we're a stupid country. They should never be allowed to govern ever again because they are inept. They cannot do it. They can fan the flames of hate. They can give into people's base fucking beliefs and things like that. But they cannot lead. They cannot go from that. Like at this point, we should all literally be in way more trouble than we are in right now because they have not only do they have both houses of Congress, they have most of the state houses, and they have the fucking White House. They have a majority. I think that right now they have a majority now. Yeah, they have a majority now in the judiciary. Like they should be running the goddamn table right now, and they can't. And that should tell you right there. Like as much as people said that Obama couldn't get anything done when he had a super majority, when you think about it, at this point in his career, in his first year, Obama had already saved the auto industry. And he stopped the economy from because by the time he took over, the economy was free falling. We had the crashes and everything was going on here. He started working on healthcare. You might not like Obamacare; it might not be perfect, but he got healthcare done. And
Which people have been trying to get done for 20 years.
He got it done.
And he got it done.
It wasn't what all people wanted, but he got it done. People say he didn't use like. You got way more than what you could have gotten done. Like, and then from there, when he lost even more seats, he got even more shit done even then.
Got even more done.
So it's like, yeah, it's just one of those things. I look at this shit and I'm like, you guys have had 11 months, and relatively speaking, as much as it's as crazy as it's been, as bad as it's been, and I'm not saying that there aren't people because like, there's definitely been like there was the story of the I can't remember the young 10-year-old girl who had surgery and they tried to cerebral and they fucking tried to deport her right after. Like there are definitely some horror stories out there. Don't get me fucking wrong. You have Nigeria, you have the soldiers, you have a lot of shit going on here. But when you put it in context of what could fucking happen right now, and as terrible as the Republicans say they were going to be and what they wanted to do, yeah, it's kind of quietly a miracle that they haven't been able to get anything done. You know?
Agreed.
Hi. My name is Latoya, and I am behind a show on the MTR network called Secret Sauce. Now, Secret Sauce is a show that's by, for, and about black women. And really, the show is designed to give black women shine. The motto behind the show is, without black women, things would be pretty fucking bland. And so we highlight black women that are entrepreneurs. We highlight black women that are creatives. You know, we talk about, we have conversations that black women are having right now. You know, it could be giving somebody like Serena, who's always based, some love. Or it could be, you know, talking about what's going on in the world that we have today. I can't tell you what's going to be on every show because it changes, but what I can promise you is that we're going to have fun and we're going to be informative. I hope to see you soon.
All right, let's get into the last two, actually three, because we're going to also do a black women shout out. Let's get into this. We're going to do our, this is, do you even sci-fi bro? No.
Yes, I do.
Yeah, we all do. So here we go. Alrighty, it's Do You Even Sci-Fi Bro, where we talk about, they've all been robots. I'm sorry that they've all been robot heavy, but it's just, I'm sorry, it just, people send me this shit. We're gonna bring up some stories, a story that just makes me wonder if people even watch sci-fi movies, because this is just fucking horrible. I'm gonna read the, I'm gonna read the headline. A robot that once said it would destroy humans just became the first robot citizen.
So essentially, Ultron. That's what you're telling me.
An empty-eyed humanoid named Sophie has become the first robot to be granted citizenship in the world. Saudi Arabia bestowed the citizenship on Sophie ahead of the Future Investment Initiative held in the kingdom's capital city, Riyadh, on Wednesday. I'm very honored and proud of this unique distinction, Sophie told the audience. Speaking on a panel, you gave her a panel position. Yeah. Oh my God, what the fuck? This is historical to be the first robot in the world to be recognized with a citizenship. It didn't elaborate on the details of its citizenship. Oh God, this is fucking terrible.
The Bernie Sanders of robots, granted a seat at the convention.
Yeah, this is fucking serious. This is ridiculous. I'm trying to see if they actually have it speak. No. Okay, the video doesn't have it.
Oh, good afternoon.
Oh, no, here it is.
My name is... Oh, good afternoon. My name is Sophia, and I am the latest and greatest robot from Hanson Robotics.
You have been now awarded what is going to be the first Saudi citizenship for a robot.
Oh, I would to thank very much the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. I am very honored and proud for this unique distinction.
No. This is what are you doing? Like, what are you, this is stupid. What are you?
iRobot didn't mean anything to folks. Age of Ultron, Blade Runner, the original that, people have heard so much crap about over the last 30 years. Yeah, man, things like that are kind of crazy though, because again, the world is changing and everybody thinks, oh, those are just comic book movies. That can't be real. That sounds like Ultron to me. That's what that sounds like.
This is so fucking bad. In March of 2016, Sophia's creator, David Hansen of Hansen Robots, asked Sophia during a live demonstration at South by Southwest Festival, "Do you want to destroy humans? Please say no." With a blank expression, Sophia responded, "Okay, I will destroy humans." Yeah, no. This is just
strange times, man. Strange times.
What is wrong with you people? Like, this is not what you do. You don't give a robot to humans, because this is coming after, like, we've had like 3 fucking weeks of me having articles about men and their sex robots. So you don't give a robot citizenship, and then because then once you give them citizenship, you also got to give them human. You got to give them personhood, and then you got to deal with the fact that these men are getting them as sex robots and sex slaves, and it's just like it all goes downhill from there. You keep saying Ultron. It's worse than Ultron. It's as if Tony Stark or fucking Hank Pym created Ultron to be a sex robot that he had for their sex orgies, and all of a sudden Ultron got upset. That is terrible. It's a terrible fucking idea. It's just the worst. It's worse than Ultron. Oh my god.
That's true.
Oh my god.
This is not going to end well.
Oh my god. Like, it's like fucking Ultron orgied sex. Oh god. This is oh my god, people are fucking stupid. We are stupid. We are stupid. We are stupid. I can't fucking believe it. Oh my god, unfucking believable. Oh my god, I saw this and I just got so fucking upset. I was just like, you fucking.
I understand.
I just feel like this. Like, people always say, "Oh, well, I never watched Star Trek." It's like, this is why you watch Star Trek. This is why you watch all that shit. This is why you watch it for this. You watch it for this reason.
When a black hole is opened in the sky and the Klingons come through for real. You're going to wish that you do what we do.
Oh, my God. It's just fucking terrible. All right. Now on for Great Moments of White Privilege. All right, great moments of white privilege. Wait, why is this article? Hold on, let me find a better. This is the article on a black man shooting can be removed from cops' records, says judge.
Yes.
This is the for the Betty Jo Shelby who shot. Oh, who was the man she shot? I'm sorry, I lose track of the
of the number of blacks that are.
Yeah, it was Terance Crutcher. I thought it was Terance Crutcher, but I had to make sure it was Terance Crutcher. As if getting a credit in the fatal shooting of Terance Crutcher wasn't enough, the record of former Tulsa officer Betty Jo Shelby has been wiped clean as if it never happened. Shelby requested that her record be expunged following her acquittal, and District Judge William LaFortune ruled on Wednesday that the first-degree manslaughter case would be removed from her record, with the documents related to the case sealed except by court order. Outside of the government and law enforcement officials, agencies would also be unable to see the case on a background check, basically opening up her for being able to go back to work as a police officer, maybe not in Tulsa, but somewhere else. So you're going to get this woman, and you don't remember the Terance Crutcher case, and I don't fault you for this, because there's been so many of these shootings, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is the one that was super egregious, although they're all egregious. But this is the one where her husband was. They had a traffic stop. Terance Crutcher had been stopping his car on the road. He had his hands up. He was walking back to his car. She had her gun. He had stopped. I think his car had stopped, and he had called them. I
He
believe
was,
so.
yeah, and he was on his way to school, right?
Yeah,
he was on his way to college. He was on his way to night classes. He had called them, pulled over, came out, and they showed the footage from the helicopter camera, and you see him with his hands
her husband was
clear as day.
Yeah. His hands was
husband
up.
was the helicopter.
Her
guy,
husband,
right?
her husband was in the helicopter. Betty Jo Shelby was on the ground. She had her gun out, drawn on him. He was walking back towards his car. He had his hands up, and she shot him in the back.
Yep.
And she got acquitted because she feared for her life because he was a big black man. And now her record is expunged. Right. Even though he was walking away with her with his hands up. Shelby's defense attorney, Shane McMurray, explained that it was important to have that smear on her name removed from public view. Like any citizen who was acquitted, Betty Jo Shelby was entitled to have her record sealed and expunged. Betty continued to work to try to serve her community and praise that for everyone's continued healing. Last year, Shelby encountered Crutcher when his SUV stopped in the middle of the street, ultimately fired on him and killed him. While many people argued that she had overreacted, Shelby was acquitted after she claimed that she was fearful for her life because Crutcher appeared to be under the influence of drugs and she thought he was reaching into his car.
Yeah. Yeah.
Great moments of white privilege.
Reach into my car when I'm walking away. That's typically when I reach from inside my car.
With your hands up in the air.
With my hands above my head. That's how I reach. I'm Mr. Fantastic, in case you guys didn't know. That's another reason to vote for me. Yeah.
And this also goes to, I'm not going to go into this right now too much, but it came to that report that came in that there wasn't any that much difference between cops behaving if they were had their body cameras on or off. And they saw no discernible difference in cop behavior because of that. And I'm like, yeah, because they get off no matter what. Even if they get caught on camera, we're now finding... Again, I'm not one of those people that says that body cameras isn't a bad thing. I think body cameras should exist. But the body cameras aren't the only answer because there need to be steps in place that happen when you get that camera footage. And now you see the person that's done this shit, and then what? Like, you have the helicopter footage of the shit happening. She shot this man to death. He's dead. Somehow she gets acquitted and her record expunged, though.
Yeah, and I think that's why, like, yes, police are one side of that equation, but the judicial system is the other side of it, and that's why we need that to be changed. Because again, the Eric Garner, and again, if you had questions even about the Mike Brown thing, even though eyewitnesses told you what happened, Tamir Rice, again, 11 years old in a park, somebody calls because he looks suspicious, quote unquote. Cops waited 2 seconds, pulled up and shot him. Again, these are things that, yeah, sure, there is this code of silence amongst police officers, but they keep getting off, so there's something wrong with the judicial system as well.
Absolutely. So, all right, we're getting ready to wrap this up. So we're going to do a black woman shout out. Do you have one? Did you want to give a shout out to any black woman out there?
I actually do, yeah. So shout out. So obviously, like now as I'm running for office, it's, it does take a different toll on my family and my friends and stuff like that. But I did want to shout out my wife, who is also a small business owner. She actually started a fashion blog like 3 years ago and has been able to turn it now into essentially almost like a fashion firm. It seems like she does a bunch of ads for companies like Neutrogena, Target, things like that. And her biggest thing is how to style things for women of color, right? So maybe colors that they wouldn't typically wear because the media doesn't tell you that they can, but also how to do it on a budget, because again, not everybody's going to come out here in Lubos and just to get off the helicopter and walk to a hurricane area. So shout out to her. Her name is Patty. Her blog is pattyscloset.com. We're married now. We've been together 6 years, been married 3. She is my best friend, the love of my life, and I couldn't do any of this without her. So shout out to her.
Oh, awesome. And you have to send me her information. I'll pass along to Latoya. Maybe we can get her to talk to Latoya on an episode of Secret Sauce. So
awesome. Yeah. I'll send that your way for sure.
Definitely do that. And I guess it's going to be the day of shouting out significant others on the show. I wanted to shout out to give my black woman shout out to my girlfriend Ashanti. She got a new job. So I just want to say congratulations on your new job. I think Friday was her last day at the old job. They threw her a little party. So I just want to say congratulations on the new job. I know you've been waiting to try to get out of your current situation. So congrats, and I'm really proud of you. So there you got it. I'm not gonna embarrass you too much. I'll do that when I see you next time. So Dalbin, I want to say thank you very much for joining me on this episode of the Insanity Check. It was really great to have you on here. This is a really great show. Please tell everyone where they can reach you, where they can get to your site to find out more about your candidacy and what's going on, and just follow you and everything you're doing here. So even if you don't win, you're doing a lot of great things in the community. I think a lot of people want to reach out and talk to you. So please tell everybody where they can find you at, man.
Sure, man. And I mean, again, I know I said this when we started, but thank you very much for having me on. It's been a pleasure. Again, I've listened to you guys from jump, and to be able to sit here and just chop it up with you for a couple hours has been great. You guys can follow me on Twitter at DO4MOCO Council. That's my Twitter handle. It's the campaign handle. I do all politics stuff there. You guys can email me at info@DalbinOsorio.com. Website is www.dalbinosorio.com. And then, I respond to every email personally. I, like Kriss, do not have a secretary to respond to, so I respond to everybody. I'm always interested in hearing your thoughts, especially if you're a Maryland resident, just things that are impacting you, things that you would like to see the council do more of. Myself, my friend Harvey, and my other friend Ashanti, who's running in New Carrollton and Howard County, respectively, are working on this initiative called One Maryland, where we are launching in the month of November. We're trying to collect over 5,000 pairs of socks to give to the homeless population in Maryland. And one of the biggest things that we're trying to do is just bridge the gap between all the counties in Maryland, because we do find that there is a disconnect amongst these counties because we have different problems, but that doesn't mean that we can't find similar solutions to help fix those issues. So, thank you again, Kriss, for having me on. I'm super appreciative, man. And you guys want to have me back on, feel free. I'm more than happy to be back.
We are definitely going to have you back on, man. Definitely going to work on that. We'll love to have you there, and we're definitely keeping in touch, man. It's been great having you
Absolutely.
on. And everybody else, thank you guys very much for listening to the Insanity Check. Again, you can subscribe to us on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, Google Play Music. Subscribe to us doing Insanity Check, or go to the website, mtrnetwork.net. Also, I want to thank everybody. Last time we put a call out for this, it worked out really well. Thanks to everybody who's gone to our YouTube page, youtube.com/MTR Network, and subscribe to YouTube. We are now over 600 subscribers, and we're now moving towards 650, hoping to get to 700 next milestone for us. Like I said, I would really love to. It probably won't happen, but I would really, really love to get to 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year. We're going to keep making that push to help that. We're doing a lot more stuff on YouTube. We're definitely still gonna have the movie trailer review for Thor Ragnarok coming out this week. I got to see it a little bit earlier because I'm in the Film Critic Association. So Phenom sees it on Monday. We'll record our review shortly after that, so that'll be up on the feed. But I'm gonna do a little short Thor spoilerless, spoiler-free review on YouTube, so subscribe to YouTube. And I'm gonna try to do a few more reviews like that, and a few more videos like that on there. So just keep an eye out for the YouTube page. We're gonna get a lot more content out, and we still have a lot more interviews. We've been holding out on some. We have Black Lightning interviews from San Diego. I've just been holding because Black Lightning wasn't gonna come out yet. So we've been holding on a lot of our interview videos because we're waiting for the shows to actually release. So just subscribe on there. We got plenty of more stuff coming out there. Again, it's getting cold out there. The hoodies are out. Store.com, store.mtrnetwork.net. Go there, get your hoodies. Again, sign up for our newsletter at mtrnetwork.net, and we're going to start sending out better content through the newsletter. And again, you want to be a premium member. I know I have one more episode of. So here's the thing. We just put out episode, I think, 16 of Molecules and Shit. I'm going to put out episode 18 of Molecules and Shit on the premium feed. Episode 17 has an interview they did. We're going to put that on the main feed. We're not going to have an Insanity Check next weekend because it's Deepalm's wedding. So I'm going to put that episode of Molecules and Shit up next weekend. So it's going to be a little out of order, but it's going to be up there for everybody to go see. But we have a lot of premium content that's coming out. We're going to do reviews of Future Man, and we'll probably get season 2 of Stranger Things. Now I've seen season 1, and season 2 is out now. That'll all be on premium. So there are 2 ways to get premium. You go to premium, go to the site, mtrnetwork.net, and go to the premium side there. Or even easier, patreon.com/mtrnetwork. We have one person who's already signed up for our $10, who's already a premium member, who signed up for the $10 account. So we're going to start streaming some of our content soon. I have to figure out what it is. But we want to get more people so it's not just one person in the chat. So start signing up for that. Again, patreon.com/mtrnetwork. And, just stay tuned. We got a lot of stuff coming out there. on all the feeds, all the shows, and just keep checking us out. So, again, folks, thank you guys very much for listening. And Dalvin, thank you very much for joining me. Until next time, folks, we are out of here. Peace.
Peace.